A tired warrior is facing the master of a high-difficulty dungeon, a level 67 wingless dragon, Sebarumus. As the party feels like they're just done for, the dragon lets out a roar and starts preparing his fire to finish them off. However, just then, a little goblin shows up and, with one smack, swats away the whole big-ass dragon, shocking everyone around. Nobody can understand why a monster is attacking another monster, which only ever happens if one of them is a summon. Then the party notices someone standing on a hill, laughing like a maniac, just like a goblin. But before all this, the goblin dude was just a normal guy. Then, one day, our goblin dude overhears some people talking about Mr. Cha, who's been skipping work because he's too busy playing Heaven's Door. They say he got some kind of hidden class that'll let him rake in a ton of money. Heaven's Door is a full-dive virtual reality game that's been trending like crazy. It feels so real, people actually forget about real life while playing. Of course, the tech is super advanced and the machines are expensive, but thanks to a ton of internet cafes upgrading to match the trend, even broke guys like the goblin dude can enjoy it too. And with all the demand, what did that cause? Real-world money started flowing into the game, and game items basically became real-world currency. Heaven's Door turned into a legit game changer. He used to enjoy it, back when he'd mess around pretending to pull off ultimate moves and take down monsters with skills like Skill Strike Rock, which got him a bunch of ore. But over time, he started thinking about how dumb it all felt. After all the grinding, he still had to grind even more. He notices something in his hand and blurts out in shock. It's an advanced healing crystal. He realizes that if he exchanges it, it's worth at least 300,000 won. Now it finally makes sense to him. This is why he's been mining. He laughs like a crazed goblin, completely overwhelmed with excitement. Just then, someone approaches and asks what he's holding. Turns out to be a woman, and not just any woman, she's definitely beautiful. But she's not alone. There's a group with her. She tells him that since he's been mining here every day, his mining skill must be pretty high by now. He casually responds that yeah, kind of, and asks what's going on. She explains that her party is currently running through the dungeon, but a huge rock is blocking the path. So she was hoping that someone with his skill set could help them out. He tells her that he is skilled, sure, but his level is still too low to enter the dungeon safely. However, another member of the woman's party, this time a dwarf, chimes in and says they'll handle the monsters as long as the goblin just sticks with them and keeps mining ores. But the goblin starts making weird faces. Something about a dwarf talking about mining just feels odd to him. The dwarf picks up on this and starts calling it out. He says it's probably because the goblin assumes that just because he's a dwarf, he must be good at mining. He adds that people always think dwarves are only good for mining, that they're useless in battle, and maybe they should just die. Now, to be fair, the goblin wasn't thinking that at all. But then his thoughts go off in a completely different direction. If he joins their party, he could share the experience points and possibly even get his hands on some high-level ores. It doesn't sound like a bad deal, but at the same time, he wonders if he'll really be safe that deep inside a dungeon. Sure, players can revive after dying in this game, but there's that other thing, a detail the game doesn't really talk about out loud. Just as he's overthinking it, the pretty lady grabs his hands and steps really close, looking him in the eyes with a sweet smile. She says she's sorry, but her ideal type just happens to be a guy who mines with strong arms, and she can't help herself. The goblin starts losing it, heart racing, mind spiraling. Then, just as fast, the woman says it's totally fine if he doesn't want to do it. No pressure. But the goblin immediately blurts out that he wants to do it. Of course he does. No way he'd say no to this. Still, in his head, he's freaking out, wondering what the hell he's even saying. Later, he finds himself standing face to face with a grave wolf. It's level 7. Not too bad on paper, but he's still lower level than the monsters, and there's not just one of them. There's an entire pack, and they've got him surrounded. One of them lunges at him, and in that moment, he starts thinking about his mom. But before the wolf makes contact, the woman from earlier tells him not to move. Suddenly, a massive burst of fire rains down right above him. It's a skill, Salamander Flame, and it wipes out the attacking wolf. The pretty lady rushes over and asks if he's okay or if he's hurt anywhere. She introduces herself as Catherine Lee, a level 39 magician. The goblin tells her he's fine and thanks her for saving him. She just took out the entire grave wolf pack in a single move. She's ridiculously strong. However, the lady then tells him that he really scared her. She asks him not to leave her side. It's too dangerous out here on his own. The goblin guy completely loses it internally. He can't believe she actually wants him to stay by her side forever. He starts wondering if this is finally it, the pink romance route he's always dreamed of. Then, Another guy in the party chimes in while casually dodging wolf attacks. He says there's no need to act so surprised. They're not the kind of people who just mess around in a dungeon like this anyway. And then, without breaking a sweat, he swings his weapon in a huge arc, taking down the remaining wolves with a flashy giant will move. He mentions a suspicious, or saying it's something that can only be broken with a high mining level. That's why they came here, to check what's inside it. Apparently, they had skipped over it before because they had no choice, maybe because of time or risk. To the goblin, it suddenly starts sounding like he might have been lured into a trap. These people really don't care about someone like him. But what exactly do they mean by someone like him? Now, he's getting that all too familiar feeling, like he's being treated like an idiot, just a disposable tool, someone they can't even mine the ore without. He walks up behind them with a menacing look and says he can't just let that slide. He asks the guy if he seriously thinks he doesn't have any combat skills. Then, as if to prove a point, he suddenly starts swinging. The others brace themselves, but instead of attacking anyone, he smashes his pickaxe straight into a nearby rock. Turns out he wasn't attacking the guy, just demonstrating something. And sure enough, he proves it. He really doesn't have any combat skills. Mining is all he's good at. The realization hits him hard. He feels genuinely sad about it. He's got nothing else to offer. And deep down, he hates that. But what else can he do? The dwarf then says he hopes the info they bought about the ore is legit, because if there's nothing behind it, they're going to suffer a major loss. The other guy adds that it better be true, or he'll make sure the person who brought him here pays for wasting his time in this crap dungeon. Meanwhile, the goblin stays focused on his work. He keeps mining, but inside, he's thinking about how he's so used to getting looked down on, risking his life for pocket change, that it doesn't even make him angry anymore. And somehow, that's what really pisses him off. Still, he forces himself to calm down. He figures if he just finishes his task, gets paid, and leaves, this would just be another ordinary day. Nothing special, nothing worth remembering. But then, with one hard strike of his pickaxe, the ore and the surrounding rocks start to crack. And what they all see inside is something absolutely insane. It's a huge door, a hidden dungeon. They all freeze for a second. None of them can believe it. A real hidden dungeon, buried inside a low-level area. This kind of thing is basically a jackpot. Special rewards, class change opportunities, rare loot, everything they could ask for. The pretty lady's expression shifts. Her friendly face turns cold and menacing. Then the so-called hero of the group quietly draws his sword. He starts moving toward the goblin, who's still grinning, completely unaware of what's about to happen. He's just standing there, happy and hopeful, thinking maybe this is it. Maybe now he can turn his life around like Mr. Cha. Then suddenly PK mode activates. He screams in shock as the blade slashes through him from behind. He can't even breathe. His life points drop, minus 480. It's insane. A hidden dungeon like this showing up in a low-level area, and all they needed was some nobody with a mining skill to access it. To the pretty lady, it's all too ridiculous. She even mutters that she hopes the guy won't hold a grudge. After all, they did all the fighting. He was just tagging along. Now, hearing that, everything clicks for the goblin. So they were the ones who attacked him. They were in on it from the beginning. Cowards. They knew about the hidden dungeon all along. The warrior walks over, grabs him by the hair, and confirms it. Of course they knew. He calls the goblin a moron for not figuring it out sooner. Says they wouldn't waste their time here for fun. But since the goblin helped a little, he offers to make it quick. A final act of mercy for the poor guy who did all the hard work. Then darkness. Sometime later, the goblin comes back to his senses. He's still inside the dungeon. For a second, he wonders if they didn't actually kill him. Maybe they had a sliver of decency, but then a system notification appears. It says he's holding an advanced healing crystal, an item that automatically revives the player with 100% HP when their health hits zero. That crystal, the one worth 300,000 won, that's what saved him. Now he knows he did die, and the only reason he's alive is because of that one precious item. The realization hits hard. His money's gone, completely wasted, and for what? Rage boils inside him. Those bastards took everything. But then he looks up and sees it. The hidden dungeon door is wide open, which means they haven't cleared it yet, which means he still has a chance. No way he's walking away after losing something so valuable. He clenches his fists. No more tagging along. No more playing the weakling. Now he's gonna crash their party and flip his entire life upside down. He hates those jerks. Those smug bastards who look down on him like he was nothing. Now, all he wants is to become their worst nightmare. Fueled by anger, Kim Chul-soo rushes toward the hidden dungeon entrance, yelling at them to just wait right there. He jumps in, determined to flip the script. But as soon as he lands, he realizes, too late, that there are stairs. A lot of stairs. He tumbles straight down, losing 80 HP in the process. Not the entrance he imagined, but still, he actually made it in. He gets up, bruised but focused. His name is Kim Chul-soo, and he tells himself again, this must be the hidden dungeon. Then, up ahead, he sees it. The hidden dungeon, Goblin Shrine, is massive. Right in the center sits a goblin on a throne, looking strangely smug for a dungeon decoration. Kim stares at it, wondering what's with the royal attitude. He starts piecing things together. A shrine dedicated to goblins? Could that mean this dungeon is just filled with goblins? That seems too easy. A hidden dungeon is supposed to be something intense, risky, rewarding. This just feels underwhelming. He keeps walking, noticing how eerily quiet everything is. Something doesn't feel right, and then he spots a hand below him. First, he doesn't get it, but as he steps closer, he realizes what it is. It's the dwarf from earlier. Barely conscious, the dwarf weakly asks if Kim can revive him using a skill, but Kim tells him he doesn't have any revive skills. Then it hits him. Maybe the dwarf is just holding off on pressing the revive button. Maybe he's still hoping to finish this hidden dungeon first. Kim can't help but think how greedy the guy is, even while half dead. And that's when a warning suddenly appears in front of Kim. Warning: this is a high difficulty dungeon far beyond your current level. It is advised that you exit immediately. That freezes him in place. Before he can even react, a loud scream rings out, not from him but from behind. The voice is familiar. It's them, the same people who stabbed him in the back and left him to die. He sees the lady and the hero, both looking completely disoriented and terrified. Kim thinks again about the name Goblin Shrine. Isn't this supposed to be about goblins? But then he sees it. A towering creature, Geiger, level 80. Kim stares, stunned. What the hell even is that thing? He's completely frozen. There's no chance he can do anything against a monster like that. Even the so-called hero who killed him earlier is powerless now. Kim watches, horrified, as Geiger grabs the hero and devours him. It's brutal. Then, the creature turns its eyes toward the woman. She screams, begging for someone, anyone, to help. But Kim just stands there. He doesn't move. He doesn't speak. He's too low level, way too underpowered. He can't believe what he's seeing. The worst case scenario is happening, and he's right in the middle of it. Just then, a new option appears before Kim. Would you like to change your class to Goblin Summoner? He blinks at the screen, confused. Goblin Summoner? Is this some kind of twisted joke? Out of all the possible hidden classes, he immediately rejects it. No way he's going to accept something like that. But as soon as he does, another notification pops up. Class change completed. You are now a Goblin Summoner. Kim shouts in frustration. He swears he clicked no, but apparently the system had other ideas. Before he can argue more with the game, the monster from earlier, the level 80 Geiger, slowly creeps up behind him. Kim glances back and realizes it's already too late. There's no point in running anymore. No going back. With a deep breath, he accepts it. If he's a Goblin Summoner now, then he might as well use it. He raises his hand and calls out for a goblin to come forth. The ground starts rumbling, and then something starts crawling out. But instead of a simple, ragged spawn animation, the summoning is ridiculously flashy. Glowing effects, magical circles, thunder rumbling in the background. It looks like he's summoning a freaking dragon. Kim just stares and wonders what the hell is going on. Why is a goblin emerging with effects worthy of an S-tier legendary summon? It's just a goblin, for God's sake. But the goblin doesn't care what Kim thinks. It's cackling like a proper maniac, radiating some strange aura as if farming attention, spinning in place like a boss character entrance. Kim notices it still looks like a weak, scrawny goblin, nothing special. But whatever. Desperate to buy himself time, he decides to throw this thing in as bait. He points forward and orders it to attack the monster. Just get in there and do something. Anything. The goblin lazily sticks out its tongue and marches forward, right as the level 80 monster raises its hand to swat it away. Kim turns around, already preparing to bolt, until he hears a sound. A boom. He turns his head just in time to see the goblin land a single hit. And then 99,999,999 damage. The monster doesn't even get the chance to respond. It just disintegrates. One hit, gone. Kim stares in disbelief. It's like he just summoned some kind of one-punch-man goblin. He doesn't even know how to react anymore. A flood of notifications appears. EXP gained, plus 4,200,000. New skill learned, feed goblin. New skill learned, walk goblin. Summon goblin leveled up. Even the summoned goblin looks happy, basking in its overpowered glow. Kim stands there, still frozen. He has to admit it, that goofy, pathetic-looking goblin is actually max level. After that monster took down the hero, the female party member didn't stand a chance either. In the real world, her body started thrashing, and she began screaming uncontrollably. A guy nearby rushed over, trying to wake her up. He kept calling out to her, urging her to respond, shaking her shoulders nightmares, repeating that she needed to wake up, but nothing worked. Eventually, he removed her headset and found her eyes wide open, but empty. She was in shock, completely frozen. She never came back from that fight. Just like that, she was done, mentally retired from the game. Meanwhile, back in the virtual world, Kim's summoned goblin was going absolutely berserk, smacking every monster in sight, tearing through villains like they were made of paper. Kim's level started skyrocketing at an insane pace. It got to the point where Kim had to actually ask his own summon to slow down a bit. He couldn't keep up with the notifications, stats, or even his own progression anymore. Still, he couldn't complain. He was thrilled, already level 31. Apparently, the moment he killed the Geiger boss, the hidden dungeon had technically been cleared. But here's the catch. The rest of his party, the ones who actually defended him, were now dead. And since he was the only survivor, there was no way out of the dungeon other than dying. Or at least, that's how it usually worked. But Kim had done the impossible. He cleared the mind dungeon solo. What was funny, though, was that the actual mind guy, the one who fought through the dungeon legit, didn't even gain a single level. Kim, on the other hand, just rode the Goblin Express all the way to level 31. Out of curiosity, he tried checking the goblin's information, but nothing came up. No stats, no skills, not even a basic description. He stood there, puzzled. How could a low-tier mob like a goblin have this kind of power? Was it a glitch? Some kind of hidden feature? A dev oversight? He didn't know. But honestly, he didn't care either. Bug or not, he was going to milk this goblin for all it was worth before the developers noticed and patched it. With a powerhouse like this on his side, he wouldn't have to mine anymore. He could dominate Heaven's Door without grinding like the rest. Later, Kim found himself in a sleek, real-world Nara Bank branch. His customer number was called 36, and he stepped forward with a few digital game items to cash out. The teller quickly assessed his goods. Just the wolf pelts alone came out to about 97,001, which could be directly transferred to his account. Thanks to how massive and integrated Heaven's Door was, in-game resources could legally be converted to real-world currency through official banks. Still, Kim asked if he could send the money to a different account. As he checked his inventory again, he remembered he had more valuable items tucked away. Geiger's membrane, his heart. The teller's eyes widened. She recalculated, and the total shot way beyond what she was expecting. Way beyond what anyone would be expecting from a casual game run. She just stared at Kim, stunned. Then she started looking around, like she was searching for her boss. Kim tilted his head. Why was she panicking? Her customer was right in front of her. Soon after, he was invited into a private room. Tea was served. The Nara Bank manager himself sat across from Kim, politely asking whether the tea was to his liking. Kim took a sip. It was cold. The manager admits he forgot to boil the water. Kim doesn't let that slide and asks what business the manager really has with him, since he only came to convert some items into cash. The manager assures him it's nothing serious. He just thinks there might be better places for Kim to keep his money, and figured they could have a quick chat. Still confused, Kim says he has no idea what kind of better places the manager is talking about. So the manager explains that leaving that kind of money sitting in a checking account would be a waste. He brings up a great investment option their bank offers and suggests that Kim could get a better return if he chose to invest instead. Kim shrugs it off and says he understands that everyone's trying to make money, but wonders if that kind of pitch is really the manager's job. After all, he thinks he only has about 1,000,001 to his name. But the manager surprises him by saying he doesn't just have 1,000,001. He thought Kim would at least know the value of the items he brought in. The heart and membrane of Geiger, based on the current exchange rate, are worth 230 million won. That leaves Kim completely stunned. Later, outside the bank, Kim walks with the goblin, clearly thrilled. He mentions how he's already managed to pay off 10% of his debt thanks to this unexpected fortune. The goblin looks pretty happy too. Kim, laughing, says he didn't even call for the goblin, yet the little guy came running like a loyal pet. He admits he's starting to like him and even thinks he's kind of cute now. But then he stops to think. He wonders why everyone always says goblins are ugly. Out of curiosity, he leans in to take a closer look at the goblin. And yeah, now he gets it. Even from up close, he can't lie. This guy isn't cute or charming in the slightest. So Kim decides that, since they're still in town, it's best to just unsummon him for now. But then he realizes something strange. The goblin isn't going away. No matter what he tries, the summon stays right where he is. Now Kim starts to wonder if the goblin only disappears when he dies. Meanwhile, people around them are starting to notice. One by one, they begin whispering, pointing, and laughing about the goblin in the middle of town. Some ask out loud if someone actually summoned that thing, while others joke about how ugly and unsightly it looks. And Kim? He hears all of it. And honestly, he can't blame them. People around even start calling Kim a goblin. But he definitely doesn't like that. He doesn't see himself as a goblin at all. Then, One of the warriors nearby walks up and questions why a goblin is even walking through the streets of town. The guy is Patton, known as the Annihilator from the Evaton Guild. Kim's not sure what to make of him at first. He wonders if that Annihilator title means he's actually famous or accomplished. But a woman nearby quickly clarifies that it's not some earned title. Patton just calls himself that. Still, Kim thinks this isn't looking good. After all, anyone who proudly calls themselves something like Annihilator is probably not the most mentally stable person. So, trying to calm things down, Kim quickly explains that the goblin isn't a monster. Patton doesn't seem to care. Without hesitation, he swings his sword at the goblin. But the goblin reacts instantly, and with one solid smack, takes Patton down completely. Thanks to the game mechanics, the pain level stays below the fainting threshold to prevent high-level players from bullying lower-level ones. So the PK, player kill, mode activates, and just like that, Patton dies. Everyone around starts buzzing about how Patton the Annihilator just got annihilated. A goblin took down a man. Now things are spiraling. Kim is starting to panic. If people realize he's the one who summoned that goblin, he's going to be in serious trouble. But then someone else chimes in, saying that getting schooled by a goblin isn't impressive, it's just embarrassing. To him, Patton's nothing more than a loser. From his perspective, the goblin isn't even worth fighting. This new guy and his party are around level 30. Even though he clearly doesn't want to bother with a goblin, he still feels like he has to deal with it because Patton messed with their guild's reputation. Things are definitely getting out of hand. Kim knows full well that his goblin could easily wipe them all out, but that would only make things worse. So he quickly tries to de-escalate, shouting for everyone to stop. He insists that he'll take care of the goblin himself. But the guy demands to know who Kim even is and warns him not to interfere in their guild's business. Otherwise, they'll just take him down too. Kim says he's not trying to butt in or anything, but seriously, all of them ganging up on one little goblin? That's just a bad look. But of course, the goblin isn't helping the situation. He randomly hurls a rock at them. And just like that, Min-sung, the so-called Speed Master, gets taken out in one hit. The damage is just way too high. Now everyone's after Kim too. So what does he do? He bolts, starts running like hell. He's thinking, how did it all come to this? He had a max-level goblin and a promising future. He really thought his time in Heaven's Door was finally going to be smooth for once. Then, out of nowhere, this door nearby swings open and some guy waves him in, telling him to come quick. Kim's like, who even is this guy? But the guy says there's no time to explain, just get in. So Kim goes in. Turns out that was a mistake too. The guy who brought him in, that's Sangreal, the sneaky warrior at level 26. And now he casually says he only pulled Kim in to be part of his own funeral. Kim's like, man, I've got enough going on just running for my life. I don't need your drama too. Then boom, notification pops up. The Goblin Lord is impressed by your sneakiness in making your enemies let their guard down before attacking. Plus 1 goblin point. Kim's just standing there like, huh? Sneaky? I wasn't even trying to be sneaky. First, the goblin calls him weak and vulgar, and now he's calling him sneaky too? He hasn't even done anything wrong. Those guys were the ones who pulled him into their team, betrayed him, and attacked him out of nowhere. So he turns to the goblin and says, you better listen up. I'm sick of being pushed around just because I'm weak. From now on, they're going after the Evaton Guild. No more playing nice. And honestly, watching the two of them laugh like maniacs, it's kinda hard to tell who's the goblin and who's the human anymore. They're that similar, even if Kim doesn't want to admit it. Meanwhile, the others are still out on the rooftops, trying to hunt Kim down. One of the women in the group asks if the hero up ahead really needs to tag along just to deal with someone like Kim, because that hero is none other than Enyuk of the Darkness. But she thinks she could handle this just fine on her own. Enyuk tells them not to let their guard down. He points out that even though Patton the Enlightener might have been the weakest of the group, the fact that he was taken out in just one strike doesn't sit right with him. Something's definitely off about that goblin. Right then, a few screams echo in the distance. The group heads toward the sound and finds Sangreal the Cunning already down. That's when Enyuk suddenly senses the goblin right behind him. He reacts instantly and slashes backward, but the goblin takes 0 damage. Enyuk's frozen. That shouldn't be possible. It finally clicks. His eyes weren't playing tricks on him earlier. This situation is real and it's bad. He can feel it in his gut. He's about to die. He tries to block the incoming strike from the goblin, but something beats him to it. Jinyu, the Deathbringer, steps in and parries the attack. She gives him a look and asks why he's just standing around like that. She wonders if he's seriously about to let a goblin take him out. Enyuk tells her this goblin isn't normal. He's completely baffled. How can a low-ranking monster deal millions in damage? He's convinced someone's pulling some kind of trick on them. He doesn't know who, but he's done messing around. So he activates his assassin skill, Extreme Evil. He's clearly annoyed that it's come to this, but now his speed's down 90% and every single one of his attacks will land as critical hits. Jinyu looks at him and asks why he's going that far. It's just one goblin. What's he doing pulling out a move like that? Enyuk reassures her that it's fine. It might as well be a passive skill to him, but she's still confused. What kind of passive eats up half his mana? Then he switches to reverse grip stance, letting him hold his blades in reverse. It boosts his attack damage, though it cuts his crit rate in half. Still, he's confident. He figures he can finish off the goblin in one clean hit, then go after the other one. Jinyu shrugs and says alright, but she wants it over with before anyone sees them. This whole thing would be super embarrassing if word got out. She activates her archer skill, Gale Arrows, which clears all movement speed debuffs in the area and makes every attack a critical hit. Now fully buffed, Enyuk rushes forward, telling the goblin that playtime's over. But the goblin doesn't even bother to look at him. And once again, 0 damage. Enyuk just stands there, completely stunned. He can't wrap his head around what's happening. And then the goblin finally turns toward him, laughing like some crazed villain, clearly already done with whatever he planned. Despite the goblin taking 0 damage, Enyuk ends up getting slammed with a mind-blowing 99,999,999 damage. Jinyu's eyes go wide. She hears Enyuk scream, and before she can process it, a new figure walks out from the smoke. This guy, clearly unfazed, throws a cocky line about how people should talk about one-hit finishes after hitting max level. Jinyu glances behind her, still trying to make sense of what she just witnessed. It's all too much. She starts to wonder if that goblin isn't just some regular monster after all. Meanwhile, Kim and the goblin both start laughing like total maniacs, like actual goblins. And then, at last, Kim casually drops the bomb. Yeah, he summoned him. Jinyu just can't believe what she's seeing. How could a goblin be this powerful? Enyuk of the Darkness was supposed to be one of the strongest members of the Evaton Guild. Meanwhile, Kim keeps laughing like he's having the time of his life. He tells her it's none of their concern anymore. What matters is that the goblin's seriously pissed off. Jinyu tries to make sense of it all and asks what Kim is even after and what exactly they're supposed to do now. Kim replies without hesitation, they'll have to destroy the Evaton Guild. Then he starts laughing even harder, joking that it's basically her fault for being so irresistible. That completely sets Jinyu off. She starts shouting at him, calling him insane, a total lunatic. Kim pauses for a second, thinking maybe she misunderstood what he meant. He wasn't talking about anything weird. He just meant those guild guys were the ones who ganged up on him first. He and the goblin are just pushing back now, and yeah, maybe their nerves are a bit frayed. But Jinyu seems even more horrified by that explanation, and now even Kim is starting to think this whole situation could easily be misread. He turns to the goblin and tells him to calm her down. Unfortunately, by then, a crowd has already gathered. People have heard bits and pieces of the chaos and start realizing that these are the same guys from earlier. The whole scene is becoming a mess. Kim, getting overwhelmed, tells the goblin that they should just wrap it up and make a run for it. But the goblin is already way ahead of him. He's towering over June. People start panicking, screaming that the goblin has wiped out the Evaton Guild and might be about to do something terrible to the surviving women. Now they're terrified they'll be next. Kim realizes the situation has spiraled way out of control. He never meant for it to turn into this. He just wanted revenge on the Evaton Guild, and now he's stuck in this nightmare. He shouts at the goblin to stop and let the woman go. The crowd hears him yelling, and they start paying even closer attention. They notice that Kim is just a beginner, dressed in starter gear, standing up to a monster that not even the Evaton Guild could stop. And surprisingly, the goblin actually listens. He stops and lets the woman go. Kim, on the verge of tears, yells again that it's over. It's all done. But everyone else seems to take it differently. They think he's calling the end for the goblin. Everyone starts finding the whole thing kind of impressive. They may not know who this guy is, but they're all cheering for him anyway, wishing him good luck and telling him to crush that goblin. The energy shifts completely. People are rooting for Kim like he's a real hero. Kim, meanwhile, is totally thrown off. He doesn't get why they're cheering. Shouldn't they be calling him out or something? But then it hits him. They have no idea the goblin was summoned by him. So yeah, makes sense now. Earlier, he was freaking out, but now he starts going along with the act. He steps forward dramatically and tells everyone he'll handle the goblin. Says he doesn't want anyone from the Evaton Guild getting hurt. He positions himself in front of June, playing the hero card hard, and tells the goblin to let her go. He's out here risking his life for a woman. Classic hero move. And that thought actually makes him laugh again. For once, he's getting to be the hero he always daydreamed about. But there's still one loose end. So Kim quietly turns to June and and brings up the obvious. She probably doesn't want to end up like the rest of her guildmates. Then he makes her a deal. If she stays quiet about him and the goblin, he'll make sure nothing happens to her. June agrees immediately, promising not to say a word. With that settled, Kim fully leans into the performance. He raises his voice and starts yelling at the goblin, accusing it of invading the village like a lowly monster. He says it brought suffering to innocent people and declares that he's going to walk the goblin using his special skill. A glowing chain wraps around the goblin as Kim activates his skill, and then he starts running, dragging the creature behind him. He even jumps off a roof with full dramatic flair, causing the goblin to crash face first onto the pavement. Everyone watching is stunned. They recognize the skill, Chains of Light, a rare ability used to restrain monsters. And to think someone in a beginner town could pull off something like that, it's unreal. The goblin is totally helpless, just being dragged along. Kim, of course, knows exactly what's going on. This is just that walk skill he got, which boosts the goblin's mood if he takes it for a walk. The goblin's actually kinda chill now, even with the rough treatment. Kim keeps the act up, telling the crowd to stay back because it's super dangerous and he's barely managing to hold the goblin down. Then he adds that now he gets why the Evaton Guild couldn't handle it. The goblin's estimated level is probably over 50. That last part shocks everyone. They all stare at him, completely blown away. Now everyone starts putting the pieces together. It wasn't that the Evaton Guild was weak, far from it. It's just that nobody in this beginner town would have stood a chance against that goblin. Realization hits hard, and the crowd starts seeing Kim in a whole new light. Kim, of course, keeps acting like the whole thing was barely under control. He even plays it up a bit, saying maybe he can't fully defeat it, but he can at least drive it away using his skills. Then he activates goblin feeding, pulls out some goblin chow, and hurls it toward the monster with flair, like it's some epic final move. The goblin doesn't hesitate. It bolts straight for the food. Kim seizes the moment and yells that it's the perfect time to close the town gates. As the goblin dashes out toward the bait, the gates slam shut behind it. Finally, it looks like the crisis is over. Kim lets out a deep sigh of relief and casually checks if everyone's okay. But instead of answering, the whole crowd erupts in cheers. They shout that he actually did it. He chased the goblin away. The random hero no one knew just saved the town. Kim, meanwhile, is just hoping this puts the whole mess to rest. He almost became known as a psycho who wiped out an entire guild. Lucky for him, the rest of the Evaton Guild members got transported back to the Shrine of Revival at the sacred grounds of Pascal. Turns out, June is the only one who knows the truth about him and the goblin. That's when Kim recognizes her as the same girl from before. And yeah, she's still sticking to the deal. Loyal, just as promised. And now, Kim starts thinking she might be useful. He remembers hearing that within Pascal, she basically has infinite HP, meaning she can't be harmed by monsters or other players. That's why it's considered sacred ground. She's basically untouchable there. So, naturally, Kim pulls out his creepy goblin tongue and turns it up a notch. He leans in, asking if she really plans to keep the promise. Because if she doesn't, well, he'll just spawn camp her at the shrine. Over and over again, inflicting damage beyond infinity every time she revives. He even promises her that personally. That's more than enough for June. Terrified, she swears she'll never reveal the truth. Then she just turns around and bolts, screaming as she runs off. Not exactly the response Kim expected, but honestly, it works out fine. He gets to stay in this cozy, upgraded room, all thanks to doing something heroic. Kinda proud of himself now. He starts reflecting a bit, thinking about how, back then, he had no power. But if he had, he probably would have saved her too. Mostly because, well, she was really hot. Then, just as he's soaking in his moment of pride, a thought hits him. He almost forgot about that goblin point he got from the Goblin Lord. That class he unlocked? Yeah, it was all because he shared a certain kinship with goblins. And now, he just earned another point, this time for being labeled cunning. At this rate, if he keeps racking up goblin points, it won't be long before the goblins start calling him brother. In the skill shop, Kim notices that all the advanced skills are locked. Not much of a surprise. So right now, he figures he only has one choice. His eyes land on a skill called Rally, and he starts wondering what it even does. Curiosity gets the better of him, and he activates the goblin skill without much thought. What happens next? A full-on jump scare. The goblin appears right in front of him. Kim lets out a full-volume scream. He clearly wasn't expecting that. That's when it clicks. This was a summon recall skill. Great, just great. Now this is going to cause trouble. If anyone finds out that this thing is here, they're both screwed. He starts panicking, trying to figure out what to do next. Then a voice breaks through the chaos. Someone asks if he's alright. It's the innkeeper NPC. Kim, still on edge, immediately shouts that everything's fine. He throws in a threat too, tells the innkeeper that if he wants to live, he should just get out of there. The poor guy takes one look at the goblin, screams, and bolts downstairs. Crisis temporarily avoided, maybe. Now Kim turns to the goblin and basically starts begging. He says he gets it, okay? He's sorry about earlier, but seriously, just put that thing down. He keeps pleading, trying to calm the situation. Later that night, as both of them are just lying there trying to get some sleep, Kim starts talking again. He says that, yeah, even though the goblin never did anything, people mocked him and attacked him anyway. And honestly, that hits close to home. Now Kim really feels like this guy is just like him. This world, it's just full of messed up people. The next day, things take a turn. As Kim walks into the open, people recognize him. Someone calls out, saying he's the guy who saved a member of the Evaton Guild yesterday. And Kim? He casually confirms it. Yeah, that was him. He notices how crowded the area is now, and without the goblin nearby, he's feeling a little exposed, a little nervous. Then Ewan approaches. He says there's no reason for Kim to have helped them, especially after they made it pretty clear they were enemies. Still, he thanks him, though the intense death stare he gives while saying it makes Kim visibly uncomfortable. Then Enyuk steps in. He tells the others there's no need to be so on edge. He calls June the Deathbringer by name, saying it's clear Kim doesn't want to fight. But June, she's watching closely. In her mind, she's thinking that of course the goblin isn't here right now. These people are all being fooled. She's certain of it. Kim, meanwhile, tells them he only helped because there's something he needs. That's the only reason. No heroic motives here. But Yuvan responds anyway. He says that whatever the reason, the Evaton Guild owes him now, and they don't take debts lightly. If there's anything they can do to help, they will. Kim doesn't exactly trust them yet, but hey, free favors from a top guild? He's not about to say no. Kim starts off by saying that no matter how much grinding he does in this beginner area, the gains just aren't cutting it anymore. He's already past level 30 and wants to move on to the next zone as soon as possible. He's hoping maybe someone from the Evaton Guild knows how to get there. Yuvan seems to catch on quickly. Kim must be talking about Florindel. As for someone who actually knows the way, that'd be Sangreal. Yeah, that guy, the same cunning dude who tried to screw Kim over earlier. This time, though, Sangreal actually apologizes. He seems serious about it too, and judging by the fact that Kim handled that goblin all by himself, Sangreal guesses he must be crazy strong. Maybe even stronger than Peyton the Annihilator, which honestly pisses him off a bit. Kim, on the other hand, knows the truth. He's well aware that he wouldn't have stood a chance yesterday if the goblin had turned on him. One hit, just like he said, and it would have been game over. Anyway, the beginner zone, Lev, consists of 5 standard dungeons. There's the grassland with slimes, the mine dungeon, the dark forest zone, and a couple more. These are all open field dungeons, meaning players can enter them whenever they want. But if anyone wants to leave Lev, that's a whole different story. To get out, they need to clear a raid dungeon. Unlike the open fields, raid dungeons have strict rules. Gates open and close at scheduled times, and there are limits on how often you can try. These raids are basically the final test of the area, the kind of place you're supposed to go only after leveling up properly. Lev's raid dungeon opens just once a month, and now it all makes sense. The reason these guild members were all gathered here, they came to clear the raid, which means yesterday was the day the gate opened. But thanks to that goblin showing up and wrecking everything, their run got completely ruined. Now they're stuck in Lev until the next cycle. This hits Kim hard too. He realizes that he's also locked in this zone for a month. That thought alone horrifies him. Just yesterday, he made over $200,000 from drops off that level 80 monster. With that goblin, he could easily clear even tougher dungeons. He could be making real money right now. But no, now he's stuck in this sleepy little town where there's nothing left to farm and no cash to earn. Definitely not what he signed up for. He yells at the guild, asking if there's any other way out. He says he can't afford to waste his precious time here. Yuvan responds after a beat. He admits, yeah, there is one other way. Everyone around seems just as pissed. They're all fed up with wasting time. The debt's settled, so the group figures it's time to head back. Because honestly, there's no real option left besides just sitting around and wasting time. But just as they're about to leave, June takes one last look at Kim, still standing there with that same intense, unreadable vibe, and immediately bolts. She doesn't even wait around. She's out. Somewhere nearby, the goblin watches all of this unfold. He's perched in the shadows, laughing to himself like he's thoroughly enjoying the chaos. And the moment the group finally disappears, he bursts into even louder laughter, like their confusion and fear is the best entertainment he's had all day. Later that night, everything's quiet until a strange portal suddenly opens in the dark. Then, ding! A system-wide notification pops up. Boss raid has been opened. Everyone sees it, and everyone is stunned. There's just no way. The raid was supposed to be locked for another 30 days. Even Kim gets the notification. Everyone had gathered around the portal, staring at it like it was some kind of miracle. It had actually opened just a day later. That was unheard of. People were murmuring, wondering how many others might already be inside. But then one of the guys nearby casually mentioned that probably no one was. The ones who were prepared had already cleared the raid yesterday and moved on to the next region. So right now, it was just this group left behind. Kim arrived around then too. The moment he saw the portal, it all clicked for him. Of course, they had lied. The whole "wait a month" excuse was just a setup to throw him off. He realized he'd been left behind on purpose. Everyone had betrayed him so they could go first. And now he was furious. He started blaming himself too, calling himself an idiot for trusting people again after everything he'd gone through. June quickly tried to explain. She said it wasn't like that and that he was just misunderstanding. But Yuvin didn't try to argue. He just cut straight to the point and asked if Kim was in or not. Kim said obviously he was coming. Like hell he'd just sit back and watch while everyone else got rich inside. Yuvin couldn't help but think that Kim really had a messed up personality, but now wasn't the time for that. He gathered everyone so he could give a quick rundown before they entered. From the intel they had, the portal led to a single chamber, the boss chamber, so they were going to face the raid boss the moment they stepped inside. He didn't expect it to be too dangerous. The boss would probably be level 26 to 30, which was below everyone's current level. But even so, staying alert was a must. Peyton the Annihilator was there too, pumped and ready. Even though their guild master wasn't around, he said the full strength of the Evaton guild was present. And with that kind of force, they figured they could wipe the boss out in about 10 seconds. Everyone was confident. The whole group started marching toward the portal like they already knew they'd win. Meanwhile, the goblin was also nearby, lurking in the shadows. Kim noticed him and made a mental note. If anyone found out that the goblin was with him, it'd cause way too many problems. So for now, he told the goblin to stay hidden until he was called. He couldn't risk another betrayal, not again. Before stepping in, Kim pulled out an advanced healing stone, the kind that automatically revives you with 100 HP if you get knocked out. He had one ready just in case things got messy. Then he paused, briefly wondering if he'd already used this one before, but quickly brushed that thought aside. Didn't matter right now. He stepped into the portal. What greeted him on the other side wasn't what he expected. Standing right in front of him was a steel giant, a level 40 monster. Before he could even react, the entire Evaton guild started screaming and running straight at him. They weren't charging the boss, they were retreating. That's when it hit him. This wasn't the regular raid. This portal was actually a hidden dungeon, the Steel Giant's residence. Yuvin, already annoyed, turns to Sangreal the Cunning and asks what he's skiving off from this time. But Sangreal just shrugs, claiming he doesn't know anything. Meanwhile, Yuvin tells Kim to stop just standing there and to run like everyone else. But Kim doesn't move, because for him, running away from a hidden dungeon is unthinkable. Those are exactly the places that drop the best loot, and everyone knows that. The Evaton guild might be panicking because the monster is level 40, and yeah, getting hit by that thing probably won't just cost them a death, it could have real consequences. But still, it's just a 10-level gap. Kim figures it won't be anything like what happened with Retire. At worst, they'll spit out some blood and pass out. Painful? Sure. Deadly? Hopefully not. And to him, that risk is totally worth it. He figures these Evaton guys don't even understand what kind of rewards hidden dungeons give. If they want to run, fine, he'll take everything for himself. Without hesitation, he activates his rally skill and calls out for the goblin, declaring that he's choosing him for the fight. Only nothing happens. Outside the portal, the goblin just stands there silently, unmoving. Meanwhile, the steel giant doesn't waste any time, charges toward Kim and slams him right in the face. Kim keeps shouting for the goblin, but still no response. A moment later, the members of the Evaton guild see the system notification. Kim has died. His HP hit 0. That's when the Annihilator finally recognizes the name. This was the same guy who fought the goblin yesterday. What an idiot. Yuvin doesn't dwell on it though. He says whatever happens to Kim isn't their concern right now. They've got a bigger problem. The portal's closed. That's not normal. Hidden dungeons don't shut their portals this early. Only raid-type dungeons do that. Sangreal chimes in with a theory. He says maybe they underestimated the place. Just like how standard dungeons can sometimes morph under special conditions, it's possible that a raid could spawn a hidden dungeon instead. So now they're stuck inside a hidden boss raid, and they've got no choice anymore. They're gonna have to fight. Meanwhile, in the real world, Kim's not doing so great. He's just realized that despite being over level 30, he's still got one shot. Sure, that Iron Giant was level 40, but still not great. Then it hits him, he forgot to use his unused status points. And to make things worse, now that the portal's closed, he can't summon the goblin anymore either. He was so close. The treasure was right there in front of him, and that useless goblin bastard just stood there and let it all go to waste. Now Kim's sitting there stewing, realizing how badly he's about to miss out on all the rewards. Back inside the portal, the Evaton Guild is getting ready for the real hunt. And while they're prepping, Kim is still outside, sulking about the loot he's losing, until something clicks. Inside, the guild members are already moving. They're all fighting together, and Sangreal is the one leading the charge. He's calling out instructions, telling everyone how to use their skills properly to get the most out of them. With Ji-Hyun, the Deathbringer's speed buff, in play, Sangreal is confident the monster won't even have time to react. They all rush in to attack, but right then the monster lets out this deafening roar that shakes the entire area. Even with that, they know how this goes. Every monster has at least one weak point. That's the whole point of their first combo. The 216 serial slashes, done by 2 fighters, so 32 slashes total. It should cut all over the thing's body. Then, by checking which wound is deepest, they can figure out where to focus. After the barrage, someone asks if anyone spotted it, if anyone could tell which injury hit hardest. But the answer is silence, because none of them managed to deal even a single point of damage. Now they get that the opening combo is mostly just for probing weaknesses, but usually it still does some damage. Even Yuvin agrees. This is not normal. They toss around some possibilities. Either the monster's defense is crazy high, or it's not that at all. Maybe smaller attacks just straight up won't work. To test the theory, Yuvin pulls off a heavy hitter. A big one. Finally, that does something, just a little damage, but at least it connects. That's when they realize the problem. The monster's skill, hatred for the weak. A passive ability that nullifies any attack that does less than 5% of its max HP. That explains everything. Annihilator chimes in. If that's how this thing works, then there's only one person who might be able to break through it, Yunyuk of the Darkness. He's the kind of guy who can land a solid hit even against a level 40. But Sangreal disagrees. Nope, he says. Yunyuk's strong, but he's not the one with the strongest ultimate here. Someone else has a better shot under the right conditions. That someone is Ji-Hyun, the Deathbringer. Her special skill, Ultimate Deathbringer Arrow, is no joke. It's an archer move that uses her own HP to charge the shot. The more health she sacrifices, the more power the arrow has. Sangreal knows that if the rest of the guild ever finds out she's packing something like that, they'll probably make her guild master on the spot. That's when Annihilator quietly says her name, like he's just figured it out too. He tells her that he's not sure what exactly she needs, but if it's time, he's got plenty to give. Then he gets ready to pull aggro using his war cry skill. As soon as he uses it, the monster responds with a deafening roar and charges straight for him. Meanwhile, Kim watches and thinks the guy is out of his mind. Instead of running for his life, he's actually drawing the monster's attention on purpose. But somehow, Annihilator survives the hit. He mutters to himself that it wasn't as bad as he thought. It's manageable. The boss isn't quite as terrifying as he expected. Even so, Sangreal warns him not to let his guard down, explaining that their plan can't afford any screw-ups. He reminds them all that the skill in play is pain sharing. It splits the damage taken between 2 people, and whoever has more HP takes the heavier hit. Kim, watching all this unfold, can't help but feel surprised. These guys are all lower level. They don't have hidden classes, but they're still pushing through, staying organized, fighting like they actually know what they're doing. Yunyuk chimes in too, saying that while the warriors hold the monster's attention, the assassin squad will start breaking down its defense using their passive skill, weak point elimination. That skill has a low chance to lower the enemy's defense by 2%, stacking up to 5 times. Kim still doesn't understand how they're this competent. He wonders if this is just what it means to be in a guild. Honestly, at this rate, it looks like they might actually take down the boss. That's when it hits him. If they do defeat it, he gets nothing. No loot, no XP, nothing, because he's still dead. Just then, something strange happens. The monster points at Annihilator, who stares back in confusion. He wonders what the monster is doing. Then the monster roars again, but it's not aimed at him anymore. It's looking somewhere else. Annihilator starts to realize something is off. Then a system notification confirms it. The monster has chosen a new target. Cut to Kim, who's just used his advanced healing stone to resurrect. He says he couldn't stand sitting on the sidelines any longer. He's the highest level player here after all. He jokes to himself that the protagonist always makes a late entrance, but his dramatic return doesn't go the way he hoped. The steel giant immediately locks onto him as the new target. Without any hesitation, the monster uses its wide-range skill, surface pulverization. In an instant, the battlefield is rocked. A huge number of Evaton Guild members are wiped out. Everyone turns to Kim, absolutely furious. They're in disbelief. They can't understand why he didn't use that resurrection item sooner. Seeing his whole team get wiped out, Peyton the Annihilator loses it. He's furious, but Sangreal isn't having any of it and tells him to stay focused and not let his emotions get the better of him. Still, Peyton charges in with the warrior skill Giga Slash, clearly ready to blow off steam on the monster. But before he can even do anything, the steel giant turns in an instant and takes him out. Just like that, and because of Sangreel's pain-sharing skill, he gets slammed with a huge chunk of damage too, enough to knock him out completely. Kim watches, stunned, as both Peyton and Sangreel drop. He can't believe it. In his mind, he didn't even do anything wrong. He just revived himself. How could that possibly be his fault? Yuvin is still alive, though. He takes a moment to think about the situation. Normally, monsters target healers and ranged attackers first. But because of the War Cry taunt skill, the steel giant had been focused on their tank, Peyton. That should have kept them safe. The problem is that when Kim revived himself, it reset the monster's aggro patterns. So now, instead of sticking to the plan, the boss randomly switched targets. The assassins didn't even get a chance to react. They were just wiped out before they could land a hit. Jiyeon, the Deathbringer, looks to Yoonhyuk of the Darkness, clearly anxious, and asks what she should do. She's ready to unleash her one-shot, one-kill bow, the one that consumes her HP to scale up the damage. The more health she sacrifices, the harder the hit. But Yoonhyuk stops her. He tells her to calm down. Firing right now would mess up everything. Their whole strategy would go to waste, especially since the assassins didn't get to stack their debuff skill on the boss properly. Without that defense shred, her shot won't be enough to finish it off. So for now, he says he'll take over tanking. He instructs Jiyeon to hold onto her charged shot and not cancel it, no matter what. If she does, they lose their best chance of winning. Jiyeon nods, understanding how critical this is. Then Kim, still watching all this, asks if there's anything he can do to help. But Yoonhyuk shuts that down immediately. He says unless Kim has his goblin, there's nothing he can do, and that the best thing he can do right now is just stay out of the way. Because honestly, he's more of a liability than an asset at this point. Kim is stunned. He can't believe everyone's treating him like dead weight just because he doesn't have the goblin out. From his perspective, this mess is all their fault anyway. If they hadn't lied to him, he could have brought the goblin in. So really, he thinks they're the ones to blame, not him. Despite knowing their way out of their depth, everyone is still treating Kim like a burden. He gets fed up, really fed up, and decides he's done trying to help. With full ego and zero chill, he tells himself that he's just going to let them all struggle until every last one of them dies on their own. Meanwhile, the steel giant shifts its focus and locks onto Jiyeon the Deathbringer. Just as Yoonhyuk predicted, the boss is now targeting their ranged damage dealer, which makes perfect sense. It prioritizes archers now. Yoonhyuk steps in, determined not to let that happen. He calls out the monster, making it clear he's the one it should be fighting. It's a risky move, but he charges in with Twin Blade Rave, slashing at the monster in a flurry of blows. The steel giant roars, annoyed more than hurt, but Yoonhyuk keeps up the pressure. He wants to show what real aggro control looks like. He keeps slamming the boss with attacks, pushing it to recognize him as the real threat. Because when it comes to taunting monsters, one way is to deal the most damage. It's only after 3 of his strongest attacks that the monster finally shifts its focus to him. Weak point Severance may only have 3 stacks so far, but his burst damage is enough to get the job done, for now. All that's left is to buy Jiyeon enough time to fire off her ultimate. Yoonhyuk pushes himself harder, taunting and dodging, activating quick evade to avoid all physical attacks for the next 3 seconds. But then, right as he's starting to think he's got the situation under control, he gets a notification. His MP is out, completely drained. He freezes for a second, caught off guard. That's all the monster needs. In the blink of an eye, it lands a devastating hit. Kim watches as Yoonhyuk of the Darkness falls right in front of him. Kim shakes his head, completely unimpressed. He mutters how ridiculous this all is, how the so-called elite Evaton Guild, so full of confidence, has now been taken out one by one. Maybe he should have just stayed dead and let them all fail on their own. Honestly, he feels like he wasted his resurrection for nothing. Meanwhile, Jiyeon is absolutely losing it. She's had enough. She looks straight at Kim and asks if he seriously thinks she's the idiot here, standing there charging her bow this whole time while everything went sideways. In her eyes, Kim reviving himself is what ruined everything. If he'd just stayed out of it, they could have taken the monster down, no problem. Kim can't believe what he's hearing. She's really blaming him, but Jiyeon doesn't back down. She says, yeah, exactly that. If she'd just had 10 more seconds, her arrow could have ended it. No one else needed to die. It was all under control until Kim ruined it. Now Kim's pissed. In his head, he tells himself that if this is how things are going to be, then screw it. He'd rather see every single one of them die than let them get the rewards without him. The monster lets out another thunderous roar, and both Kim and Jiyeon flinch from the sound. Then, the giant locks onto Jiyeon again. She groans in frustration, saying now isn't the time for either of them to be arguing. She admits she's not fully charged yet, but it's now or never if she wants to land land her shot. She turns to Kim, clearly annoyed, and demands to know what exactly he's doing just standing there. But instead of answering right away, Kim tells her to wait, he's got a question. He asks if she seriously can't move at all while charging. Ji-yeon looks confused, even suspicious. She snaps back, asking why he's even asking that. What is he planning? Then she starts panicking as Kim suddenly swoops her up and carries her on his back. She starts wailing, calling out for her mom like this was the worst-case scenario. But Kim doesn't stop. He remembers her saying she just needed 10 more seconds, and that sticks in his head. If he can just move fast enough, keep dodging while she charges up, then maybe they actually have a shot. Ji-yeon, through tears, says she can't believe how fast Kim is. It's almost like he's as quick as Yoon-hyuk of the darkness. Kim proudly explains that it's because he dumped every single one of his stat points into agility. Not even assassins are this reckless. He admits he's no assassin, but right now, he can match one in terms of speed. Then something pops into his head, he just got a goblin point. He thinks about how the Goblin Lord only gives him these points when he does something totally inhuman. He growls under his breath, wondering if the Goblin Lord is trying to guilt-trip him or something, trying to say he's the one in the wrong again. Suddenly, Ji-yeon calls out that her arrow is ready. Kim tells her to fire already, but she yells at him to stop rushing. Aiming while getting carried around at lightning speed isn't exactly easy. If she misses, it's game over. Kim brushes that off and mutters that she better hit because he wants everything repaid 100-fold. That catches her off guard, so she asks what he means. He explains that after all the blood he spilled earlier and the cost of the greater healing stone, he wants full compensation, every bit of it. While dodging and weaving through the battlefield, Kim circles the massive steel giant again and again. The monster keeps swinging, getting more and more agitated. Then Ji-yeon's skill finally activates. One shot, one kill bow. But just as that happens, the steel giant starts channeling a terrifying skill, World Demolisher, an area of effect attack that spans in every direction. Kim stares in horror. He didn't expect it to be hiding something like this. He knows they're screwed if they get hit. Ji-yeon's already down to 1% HP because she used her health to charge her skill. And Kim? He only has 100 HP left thanks to reviving earlier. One touch from that attack and they're both toast. Ji-yeon scans the area desperately, muttering that there's too much rubble. She can't get a clean shot like this. But then, as everything slows down in her mind, something clicks. A solution appears. But right now, Kim is absolutely vibing. He's in the middle of a battlefield, dodging death, carrying an archer on his back, but for some reason, he's never felt more alive. For a moment, everything slows down, and he starts thinking about the good old days, playing games with his friends, laughing until his stomach hurt. Pure bliss. Ji-yeon, clinging to his back with a look of dread, deadpans that what he's experiencing isn't nostalgia. It's literally his life flashing before his eyes. Then, suddenly, something unexpected happens. The goblin finally shows up. Out of nowhere, it just appears right there in the middle of the dungeon. Kim nearly jumps out of his skin. He yells at the goblin, asking what the hell took it so long. He says it feels like it's been a week since he used the rally skill. But then, as he watches the goblin, something strange clicks in his brain. He realizes, wait a minute, how did the goblin even get in here? Did it just break through the boundaries of the dungeon? Like, did it damage the literal space of the game to get inside? Is that even allowed? Before he can process that any further, the goblin makes its move. A new skill appears on screen, Goblin Shield. The goblin steps up, takes the hit for them, and tanks the monster's ultimate move like a champ. The giant roars in frustration, thrashing around. Kim, still breathless from the madness, says that those are some seriously dramatic last words for a hidden boss. And then it happens, the moment they've all been waiting for. Ji-yeon has her bow fully drawn. The string hums with power. Kim and the goblin are grinning like maniacs. This is it, the climax. She releases the arrow with one shot, one kill fully charged. The shot cuts through the air like a blade. And then, finally, the massive steel giant shudders, groans, and crashes to the ground. A notification pops up. Hidden dungeon cleared. Steel giant's chamber. Their levels shoot up. Ji-yeon the Deathbringer goes from level 27 to 31. Kim leaps from 31 to 34. But Kim, he doesn't care about the level up right now. He claps his hands together and says the only thing that truly matters. Now where's my reward? Although, after everything he just went through, carrying a hot archer on his back while dodging death, watching a goblin punch through dimensional walls, surviving an AoE nuke, honestly, you kinda have to wonder, what more reward does this guy even need? All the fallen characters are revived after clearing the raid. The leader checks on everyone, asking if they're alright. The Annihilator replies that he is, although he can still feel some blood around, but hey, at least it's over. If that thing's level had been any higher, they'd have been in serious trouble. Sangreal the Cunning is also there, but some people notice he's not breathing. Others casually say that just smacking him a bit should fix him up. Meanwhile, the leader demands an explanation of what exactly happened. Kim, however, doesn't want anyone coming near him. He warns them off. The leader wonders why Kim's acting like that. Jiyeon tries to explain. She remembers how, after leveling up and seeing the reward, Kim immediately ran for it. But a notification popped up saying he hadn't met the conditions for unlocking the hidden class. Just clearing the hidden dungeon wasn't enough. Apparently, even though they got the Goblin Lord's favor, technically meeting the class advancement requirement, they still had to fulfill certain hidden conditions inside the dungeon itself. Kim gets it, though. It actually makes more sense to unlock the hidden class before defeating the boss. Still, no use thinking about it now. He's more focused on the dropped rewards. But Jiyeon tells him to wait. Sure, the two of them may have landed the final hit, but everyone fought together. She insists they need to consult the group before splitting the loot. Kim isn't having it. He doesn't want to share anything, and he's been like that ever since. The leader watches him and jokes that Kim might actually be a golem or something, but to Kim, the reward is just too valuable. The leader then announces that the raid boss is officially cleared, and since Kim's team helped them out twice already, he doesn't want to argue over some surprise loot. But Sangreal the Cunning isn't done being cunning. He slyly says he warned them not to start this in the first place. He brings it up to Yoonhyuk of the Darkness, the leader, but Yoonhyuk's not interested in hearing it. Neither is Kim. Kim says he knew they'd pull this, that they've betrayed him not once, but twice. Yoonhyuk calmly responds that if they really wanted to take Kim out, they could have done it already. For now, he's fine letting Kim keep the rewards. But then he spots a unique item among them. Kim notices too. But when they ask about it, Kim just shrugs and goes, so what? They argue that Kim's not even an archer. What's he going to do with a unique bow? Use it to light a campfire? Kim knows they're right. He can't sell unique items, and he can't use it unless he's the right class. Still, like a true goblin, Kim yells that he wants it anyway. Everyone else has something cool, why can't he? The others try to calm him down, suggesting he give the bow to Jiyeon, the Deathbringer. Kim agrees, but only if they give him something in return. He points out that it's an untradeable item, which makes it priceless. If he claims it, he's technically losing value, so he demands they buy it from him. Then he starts cackling like a goblin maniac. Sangreal is stunned. He can't believe Kim actually waited until they revived just to sell them that item. But judging by how both Kim and the goblin are now laughing like lunatics, it's clear that was the plan all along. The others are just dumbfounded. Kim really does remind them of that goblin from earlier. The real goblin is still lurking in the background. They're a team now. Once Jiyeon gets the weapon, she comments on how heavy it is. Kim thanks Aviton for the trade. The leader looks at Kim and says he's had this feeling for a while. Kim really has a talent for being hated. Then he asks where Kim's heading after all this. Kim shrugs and says, obviously, anywhere without these people, since he doesn't like them. And honestly, the feeling's mutual. The others think Kim's twisted anyway, so they leave too. As Jiyeon walks away, she glances back with a small smile. Maybe she does like our little goblin dude after all. Now Kim and the goblin can walk around freely without worry. Kim's a bit bummed about losing the unique bow, but it's not like he could have used it. What he did get in return was something far more useful, a consumable item called the Thief's Glove. He can use it to steal anything, but only once. He can't steal from higher level characters, and it won't work on other users. Still, the real jackpot is this high-purity steel. Just a short while ago, Kim was basically a mining-only player. Those idiots were so focused on the shiny bow, they didn't even realize what this material was worth. Since they were the ones who betrayed him first, Kim doesn't feel even a little guilty. Later, in Fyrandel Phoenix El Bazaar, Kim spots a bunch of high-level players. He's never seen gear like that before. He wonders how much they must make grinding every day. He can almost smell the money in the air. Before he thinks about repaying any debts, though, he needs to upgrade his gear. Even if that was a hidden boss, the fact that he got one-shot by something 9 levels below him really messed with his pride. But to be fair, he's been wearing the same armor since level 3. No wonder it's practically rags now. Then he notices something weird. the armor actually gives negative defense. No wonder he got wrecked. But just as he's processing that, the goblin wants to show him something. Kim turns and warns him not to cause trouble in the village, but then he stops. Standing there is a massive monster. Kim panics. Why is there a boss-level monster just wandering around here? He immediately tells the goblin to protect him. But then, another figure appears. A woman comments that she's never seen anyone treat a goblin like their own child before. She introduces herself as Irene, a level 76 summoner. She wants to confirm something. Did Kim actually summon this goblin as his monster? She assures him there's no need to panic. The huge monster beside her, Michelle, is actually very well behaved while in town. Kim, though, is still freaked out. That monster's drooling like crazy, and Kim can feel her strength. He doesn't even need to fight her to know she's the real deal. She casually mentions that most guilds, including Avitun, wouldn't even dare challenge her. Then she looks at Kim and says, "You're kind of cute, you know?" But before he can react, she clarifies. She's not talking about Kim. She wants to know the name of the little goblin kid standing beside him. She wonders out loud if Kim hasn't even named his summon yet. And when Kim thinks about it, he realizes he really doesn't care. Like, who actually bothers naming their summon monsters anyway? Still, he's a little stunned that Irene just called this ugly goblin cute. Irene laughs it off and says that one-sided relationships like this are bound to be unstable. Then she points toward the goblin and tells him to take a proper look. This little guy's already in a full-on aggressive stance just because Kim told him to protect him, even though Kim hasn't even bothered to give him a name. She hopes Kim won't be so dull the next time they meet. For now, she just tells Michelle, the massive monster with her, to back off. Kim, of course, brushes off all of Irene's advice, telling her he didn't need it. According to him, he and the goblin have no problems whatsoever. He simply calls out, "Let's go, goblin," and keeps it moving. Later, Kim drops by a merchant to upgrade his gear. The guy, an NPC named Humphrey the Foul-Mouthed, takes one look at Kim's equipment and straight up roasts it, saying it's literal trash. Claims Kim would have been better off wearing actual garbage. But hey, that's why Kim's here, to buy something better. Humphrey shows him a few pieces, warning they might still be trash for someone like him, but eventually suggests a sturdy steel chest plate. Price tag? 350 gold, which translates to about 40 bucks in real-world cash. Kim knows he needs at least a decent defense stat. Even with a top-tier summon, if he dies, it's game over. So he buys it. Humphrey gives him a rare compliment, says at least Kim has a decent eye for gear, tells him to make good use of it, especially since he used the highest quality steel for idiots like you. Kim has to admit, Humphrey really lives up to the foul-mouthed part of his name. Once Kim puts the armor on, he realizes he can't move at all. Turns out his strength stat is just 4. He dumped everything into agility to fight the steel giant earlier. Now he's stuck. He tries to sell the armor back, but Humphrey lowballs him hard, offers only 30 gold for the same armor he just sold for 350. Says it's trash now. Kim's losing his mind. Is he really getting scammed by an NPC? But then he spots an exclamation mark above Humphrey's head. Humphrey's suddenly freaking out, says he's missing his hammer and starts flailing around looking for it. Kim points out that he's got plenty of other hammers, but apparently that one is special. Without it, he can't forge anything. The hammer was probably lost in the underground waterway dungeon near the village entrance. Humphrey asks Kim to retrieve it. A quest prompt appears. Humphrey's trouble. The reward? Access to processing materials to craft armor. Now it clicks for Kim, so that's why the boss drop materials were so expensive. Processing them could lead to some top-tier gear. So yeah, this quest is worth doing. He accepts. Outside the dungeon, Kim's smirking to himself. No need to drag any party members along. They just slow him down. It's a simple quest, and he figures he'll be done in 30 minutes, tops. Then out of nowhere, someone yells at him for just standing there like an idiot. Turns out Humphrey followed him. A new quest condition pops up. If Humphrey dies, the quest fails. Now Kim's totally confused. What the hell is this guy even doing here? Kim definitely wasn't expecting to get stuck babysitting a level 13 burden, especially one with such a nasty mouth. He figures there's no point trying to play along with this guy. After all, he dumped every single point into agility, which means he could just zip around, ignore all the trash mobs, and beeline straight to the boss monster. So, without wasting time, Kim starts sprinting. He knows how these escort-type quests work. NPCs are usually annoying and clingy, following the player no matter what. But if the player gets far enough ahead, the NPC will just stop and stay in one place. Perfect. Kim decides to exploit that and ditch Humphrey right at the entrance. But just as he's getting into the groove, a system notification pops up. Humphrey the Foul-Mouthed is under attack. Mutant slimes, one level 31, the other level 30, along with a diseased rat at level 30, are all ganging up on the poor old man. And Humphrey, sitting way back at level 13, clearly isn't built for this. Kim shouts back at him, telling him to stay out of it and not pick fights, then immediately orders Goblin to head back and handle it. The Goblin rushes in and wipes the floor with all the monsters. But of course, Humphrey starts puffing up his chest, thinking he's the one who just soloed the whole enemy squad. He starts bragging about how they were no match for him, calling himself the great and mighty Humphrey. Kim's had enough. He yells at him again to stop screwing around and just stand still. But does Humphrey listen? Of course not. He senses something else nearby and, without hesitation, charges forward to join yet another battle. At this point, Kim's ready to take the guy down himself. He mutters how much of a pain this is, reckless charging, like the guy's invincible or something. But if he dies, the entire quest fails, and Kim would have to start all over again. Thinking things through, Kim considers letting the Goblin stick with Humphrey while he dashes ahead to finish off the boss. But then another thought crosses his mind. What if he needs the Goblin later and Humphrey dies in the meantime? That would be game over. There's only one real solution. Kim tells Goblin there's been a change of plans. They're not skipping mobs anymore. From now on, they're clearing out everything on the way. Cut to Humphrey once again in the middle of a massive mob of enemies. Clearly, he can't do anything on his own, but thanks to Goblin tanking and tearing through them, he stays unharmed. Still, Humphrey keeps puffing up, convinced he's the one landing all these flashy moves. He even starts shouting about how it's been ages since he's gone all out like this. Kim, trailing a bit behind, watches the whole thing with a tired look. Sure, this method is slower, but at least it's safer. That said, he still finds the old man unbearably annoying. Then, out of nowhere, Humphrey angrily calls Kim a bastard and accuses him of looking down on him. Kim tries to explain that he's not doing anything of the sort, but Humphrey isn't done. He goes on about how he used to be a proud warrior before becoming a blacksmith. And right there, he activates War Cry, a skill that provokes monsters nearby. Kim nearly loses it. Because of that shout, even monsters that were asleep or would have left them alone are now riled up. Of course, right on cue, a new enemy appears, an awakened skeleton king with an entire army behind him. Humphrey stands there, impressed with himself, wondering if he just woke up ancient spirits too. Meanwhile, Kim is absolutely furious. This guy just made the entire dungeon 10 times harder for no reason. He hopes, really hopes, this will be the last time Humphrey trolls him like this. But then Goblin steps up. Calmly, he picks up a stone, charges it, and hurls it with deadly precision. It crashes into the skeletons and wipes them out in one go. Kim, barely holding on to his patience, mutters through gritted teeth that if this nonsense happens again, he'll clear the entire dungeon solo without giving a single damn about the quest. 3 hours later, Kim is still trudging along, cursing Humphrey in his mind. The guy hasn't stopped running his mouth or causing problems. Escorting him feels like doing a hidden dungeon challenge all on its own. And the worst part, Humphrey keeps yelling out that he's still the great Humphrey like it's some grand title. Still, at least there's been progress. Kim has gone from level 34 to 37. Then, out of nowhere, he hears something. Humphrey yells out a warning, telling Kim to move. It's a trap, and then arrows come flying out of hidden launchers. Kim immediately grabs Goblin and dives to the side, checking the surroundings, trying to figure out what just happened. Why did the trap activate? What even triggered it? Then he sees it. Humphrey is on the ground, barely hanging on with a sliver of HP, and clearly the one who set it off. To make matters worse, Humphrey starts shouting at Kim and Goblin, calling them cowards and trash for only caring about saving their own skins. Before Kim can even react, a system notification appears. Humphrey the foul-mouthed has been afflicted with poison. His health is now ticking down slowly and steadily. Kim can't help but make a classic Goblin face, full of irritation, as Humphrey's HP keeps dropping. Then, just as expected, a notification pops up. Humphrey the foul-mouthed has died. Kim storms out of the dungeon, absolutely fuming. He wants to strangle that bastard again, even though the guy's already dead. He starts running, full speed, when suddenly a mysterious figure spots him and says he's finally found him. He's been searching for Kim. Back at Humphrey's place, Kim notices a big crowd gathered and wonders what's going on. Someone in the crowd makes a snide comment about Kim's shabby equipment again. Kim just laughs it off with the Goblin, making a cheeky comment about how that's a weird choice for someone's final words. Strangely enough, Humphrey thanks Kim for retrieving his hammer, which completely confuses him. A notification confirms the quest Humphrey's troubles has been cleared, and now Kim can use crafting materials for equipment. Turns out the hammer had dropped right after they killed that rat at the beginning, and Humphrey mocks Kim for not realizing it sooner. Kim wonders why this guy waited so long to say anything. But of course, for Humphrey, the only thing worth telling Kim is that he's trash. Later, Later, Humphrey starts forging. He explains how the quality of a piece depends on the sweat of the blacksmith, and with high-purity steel in play, something amazing is being made. He proudly shows it off, declaring that when premium materials meet the hands of a master craftsman, something extraordinary is born. Kim, still a bit skeptical, points out that Humphrey doesn't even look like he's broken a sweat. Humphrey shrugs and admits the item's low quality because of that. But when Kim inspects it, he's surprised. It's blue steel light armor, a rare item from a hidden boss raid, way rarer than any hidden dungeon. It even has a 1% chance to trigger Heaven and Earth Crusher when hit. Everyone around stares in awe. Humphrey tells Kim he won't charge him this time, but also warns him not to get too sentimental. Gratitude makes him cringe. Kim casually replies he wasn't planning to thank him anyway. Just then, PK mode activates. Kim senses a presence behind him and narrowly dodges an attack. He turns around, confused as hell. Why is this guy attacking him? The figure admits he didn't expect Kim to dodge the sneak strike and now believes Kim must be strong, especially after what happened to his lady. Kim doesn't follow at first. He asks what the hell this guy is talking about and who this lady is. The attacker seems baffled by Kim's ignorance and says the last person she partied with was him, Catherine. Hearing that name rings a bell. Kim suddenly remembers the maid from the mine dungeon, the one who was with that dwarf. Now things are adding up. Kim insists that this must be some sort of misunderstanding. Whatever she told this guy, she's the one who betrayed him, stabbed him right in the back. But the attacker isn't buying it. He says Kim's walking around alive and well, while she's in a vegetative state, totally unresponsive. There's no way Kim gets to play the victim card. Even Kim's shaken now. He had no idea things got that bad. Sure, that Geiger attack hit hard. But a coma? That's wild. And now he's being blamed for all of it? No way. He yells out that it was Geiger's fault, not his. He did nothing wrong. But to the figure, whether Kim is innocent or guilty isn't the point. Because of what happened to Catherine, the whole succession of the Samyang Group's next heir is now in chaos. He launches another attack, but Kim notices it doesn't deal any damage. That's when Kim decides it's time for a proper conversation. He puts on a scary goblin grin and says maybe they should talk, start from the beginning. The guy just revealed that Catherine is the daughter of the Samyang Group's chairman, and that she's unwell. Kim sees this as one hell of an opportunity. And yeah, not gonna lie, the smile is definitely growing on me. The Samyang Group is a global giant in cell phones and semiconductors, so big that people say landing a job there means you've basically won at life. And now, the daughter of this mega company's president is lying unconscious in a hospital bed because she played a game while partying with Kim. Kim tries to explain the situation to the figure standing before him. He says she got attacked by a level 80 monster in a hidden dungeon. He's not totally sure, but he guesses it's one of those shock-related cases or whatever you call them. But the figure pushes further. He asks how Kim even got out of there in the first place, since Kim had said he was only level 3 at the time. Meanwhile, the girl was almost level 40 and still ended up in that condition. He just can't wrap his head around it. Kim explains that he somehow got a hidden class out of nowhere. He says he just got lucky. He even jokes that maybe she should have gotten the hidden class instead of him, but, well, things worked out the way they did. But in his head, Kim is thinking this whole thing is nuts. She's still in that state even after all those doctors tried to help her. And meanwhile, someone like him would have been toast instantly in that fight. The figure, clearly not buying all of this, says again that a level 3 getting out unscathed doesn't make sense, even with a hidden class. He's not convinced, since hidden classes aren't some miracle fix. Kim just groans internally. He hates talking to people like this. He starts nervously chuckling and asks if her chances of recovery are really that low. The figure tells him to shut it. She's still alive, just unconscious. The best doctors have already checked on her, but they all gave the same answer. No idea why she won't wake up. Apparently, there's nothing more they can do. So Kim shrugs and says maybe all they can do now is wait. But then he casually asks if she got hurt in-game, then why not try healing her in-game too? The figure seems intrigued and urges him to keep going. Kim says he vaguely remembers reading about some similar case in the US. Someone fell unconscious. The family was about to give up, but then, miraculously, the person came back. It was something like that, he says. But honestly, Kim's making all of this up on the spot. He throws in that the odds are something like 1 in 9.9 million. Total BS. But hey, better to at least try something than sit around praying for a miracle, right? That's the line he feeds the guy. Because in Kim's eyes, that woman lied to him first, so he doesn't mind lying back. As the figure stares at him, Kim tries to stay cool, looking away and sweating slightly, hoping he hasn't been caught spinning a lie. Later, we see the pretty lady again, now logged into the game. Kim is completely dumbfounded. They actually plugged in someone who's unconscious? They must be truly desperate. But he also realizes if they find out he lied, they'll probably destroy him. Still, he laughs like a goblin, thinking that at least he'll be seen as the guy who tried to save her. Now that this massive corporation is watching him, they can't just write him off. If she wakes up, awesome. If not, whatever. Kim couldn't care less. As he approaches her in the game, he says to himself that he'll act like he's doing everything he can to bring her back. Then, after a bit of time, he'll go back to the company and hit them with a serious face, saying something like, "I think you might want to sit down for this." He's already picturing the drama in his head and laughing about it. But before all that, he needs to figure out how to move her around since, well, she can't exactly walk. Then he gets an idea. He remembers that if done forcefully, she'll follow him. So with a chain, he can lead her anywhere. Feels a bit messed up, but hey, it works. As he walks around dragging her along, other players see what's happening and start murmuring. They're all pointing out how a goblin is pulling along a female player. The vibe is bad. People start saying he's the worst and wish death upon him. Even Kim can't pretend this is okay. He tries to explain to the crowd that they've got it all wrong, that he's actually close with this woman, but no one looks convinced. But this just makes things worse, as everyone starts whispering about how someone could treat a person close to them like that. Another guy even mutters that maybe he should get close to Kim just so he can beat him up. Now Kim is sweating. This is really bad. Everyone's completely misunderstood the situation. It's just like what happened in the last town. Then suddenly, a loud voice calls out to him, telling him to come over quickly. Kim turns and asks who this guy even is, but the man just urges him to hurry, saying there's no time to explain. Kim isn't buying it, though. He tells the guy that if he wants to live, he better start explaining things real soon. Because Kim never thought he'd run into this guy again, Sangreal the Conniving. Sangreal quickly corrects him, saying it's actually the cunning, not the conniving. He also notices that Kim has summoned that same goblin. Kim admits he did get out of a mess thanks to it, but that doesn't mean he trusts them. So now he wants Sangreal to spill. What exactly is the Aveton Guild up to? Sangreal tells him not to get the wrong idea. They just happened to be gathered for a raid that one time. The guild doesn't normally travel as a pack. Kim shrugs it off, saying he doesn't care all that much anyway. But he still asks if Sangreal's in charge of info for Aveton. Now that they've crossed paths, he wants something useful, info about the area, because he doesn't know a damn thing about Firandel. Sangreal quickly hushes him and says they'll need to move somewhere else if Kim wants to learn anything about Firandel. He leads him to a quieter spot, but as they go, PK mode activates, and Sangreal takes some hits. Still, he shares what little he knows. The boss raid here doesn't show up every month like in Leviticus. There are special conditions that need to be met. Then Sangreal asks why Kim is so obsessed with dungeons in the first place. He's noticed how Kim always loses his cool when dungeon raids get delayed. Kim tries to brush it off, nervously saying it's about the money. He needs stronger dungeons to make better cash. But in truth, he just can't admit he's been exploiting a bug. If Sangreal finds out, he might report him. Sangreal warns him that even if he's aiming for stronger dungeons, there's a process. Kim only just reached Firandel after all. But as luck would have it, Sangreal mentions a place called Phoenix El Bazaar. It's where players can take on the main quest of the game. A lot of high-level users hang around there. The moment Kim hears main quest, he lights up. That's it. If he can clear those, he'll reach higher-level areas in no time. He wonders why he didn't think of this sooner. Feeling pumped, he tells the goblin to come along and just leaves Sangreal lying there. But then Kim pauses. Where the hell did the girl go? Meanwhile, in a different spot, some players have found the unconscious girl. They're baffled about why someone this pretty was hanging out with guys like that. They think she could use some help, and hey, with all that expensive gear on her, she must be important. They figure she's not resisting, so maybe it's okay to take her somewhere safe. One of them decides to call the guards to make sure she gets protection. They believe that'll make her feel better. Back with Kim, he's freaking out. She's unconscious, and even the slightest bit of damage could kill her. If anything happens, it's all on him this time. Then the figure calls, asking if the girl is still okay. Kim quickly reassures him that of course she is, but the figure wants to see her. Kim dodges it, saying he's in the middle of something and asks for payment first. The figure presses, wanting to know what exactly Kim is doing and why he sounds out of breath. Kim insists he'll show him later and hangs up. Now the figure is getting pissed. Another man standing nearby tells him to let Kim be. What could possibly go wrong? That man is Han Ki-moon, the president of the Samyang group and also a level 76 knight. The butler nearby apologizes for the inconvenience. Kim-moon mutters that Catherine is next in line for Samyang. What could a commoner like Kim possibly do to her? The butler quietly wonders why Master Kim-moon even let her get handed off to someone like him. If healing her in the game was even remotely possible, wouldn't it have made more sense for them to do it themselves? But Han explains there's just no way to heal her. It's impossible. Sure, there's a risk something might happen to Catherine, but what would that even change now? As the daughter of Samyang, she always lived how she was told. The only thing she ever truly chose for herself was Heaven's Door. To her, this game probably felt like freedom, a kind of heaven compared to the hospital ceiling. That's why President Han Kim-moon allowed it. Maybe this way she could at least feel free. Meanwhile, Kim is running full speed through the massive town with the goblin right beside him. He's out of breath and completely baffled by this ridiculous stamina mechanic. What kind of game punishes players with breathlessness like this? How the hell is he supposed to find her in a city this huge? And then it hits him. He remembers he hasn't done anything wrong, right? Plus, he earned a goblin point earlier. Maybe he unlocked some skills? He opens the skill menu to check. One of the skills, Goblin Health Share, lets him use his own HP to restore the goblin's health. He wonders why a beast like this even needs healing. Another one catches his eye, Goblin Throwing. Apparently, he can literally chuck the goblin to a location of his choice. He figures it might come in handy, so he activates Rally and then goes ahead with Goblin Throwing. The goblin soars through the air, totally loving the view from up there. Kim himself is kinda into it too. It's working, and he's confident Catherine is going to be saved. As he sprints through the streets, he keeps shouting her name, desperate to find her. His tongue even gets caught under his own teeth from how hard he's breathing. But he doesn't stop. He yells that they'll be together forever. Then finally, he spots her. But she's not alone. She's with two other guys, fighters, one at level 44, the other at level 46. And judging by their expressions, they're not thrilled to see Kim. One of them sneers and calls him that ugly bastard again. They tell him to just give up already, claiming they'll be the ones to make her feel good, not him. Kim's completely confused. What the hell is going on here? He asks who these clowns even are. The guys smirk and tell him they're just two good-looking dudes whose hobby is saving damsels in distress. But Kim's not having it. He tells them to back off. They're the ones putting her in danger right now. The two fighters don't care. One of them snaps that Kim talks way too much and tells him to just die already. They charge at him, yelling about how someone as ugly as him shouldn't even be alive. But then, bam, the goblin just straight up one-punches both of them. Instantly, Kim bursts out laughing like a total maniac. He yells at them, asking how it feels to lose to an ugly guy. He keeps laughing, practically losing his mind over it. People nearby start to notice and wonder what kind of insane noise that is. Then, still chuckling, Kim grabs the chain once more, ready to keep going. Because of the goblin's insanely loud laughter, a guard eventually shows up. He takes one look at the situation and starts yelling, accusing Kim of knocking out two people and even kidnapping a woman. He's furious. There's absolutely no way he's letting Kim go after committing what looks like a whole lineup of crimes. Kim tries to explain himself, saying it's just a misunderstanding and that they attacked him first. But even in his own head, it sounds like a half-baked excuse. There's no way the guard's going to buy it. And if he gets arrested by NPC guards here, he's looking at real prison time in-game. He really doesn't have time for that. Luckily, it's just one guard. Kim figures he can probably take him down fast and move on before anyone else notices. Even the goblin is cackling, clearly up for it. But then, out of nowhere, Sangreal shows up, laughing like it's just another chill day and saying he's been looking for Kim everywhere. Kim immediately calls him a damn liar and demands to know what he's doing here. Sangreal keeps that fake smile on and calmly explains that killing a guard NPC isn't a good idea. It'll trigger a permanent chase mechanic. If Kim doesn't want to be hunted by NPCs non-stop, then he better chill and let Sangreal handle it. He says he'll sort it out. Sangreal then strolls up to the guard, all smooth and polite, thanking him for his service. The guard looks suspicious and asks if this guy is Kim's accomplice and what exactly they're planning. He starts eyeing whatever Sangreal's hiding behind his back. And then a system notification pops up. It's an NPC gift interaction. Basically, give an NPC something they like and you can raise their affinity. So Sangreal tries his luck. He puts a friendly hand on the guard's shoulder and offers a big fat bribe. Just a little thank you for turning a blind eye. It backfires immediately. The guard loses it. Furious, he declares that this is straight-up bribery and that he won't be bought like some dirty crook. His relationship level with Sangreal tanks, and a new notification pops up: crime committed. The dude just got himself arrested. And just like that, Sangreal gets dragged off in Kim's place. Kim watches the whole thing and wonders for a second, maybe Sangreal's not that bad after all? Later, Kim tries to enter the palace, but the guard at the gate isn't having it. He flat out refuses to let him through. Kim's annoyed. He heard this place is where they're supposed to get the main quest. But before he can argue, some random guy appears and tells him to stop wasting his energy. That door isn't opening anytime soon. Kim asks who he even is. The guy introduces himself as Shin. And yep, he's got a glowing exclamation mark over his head, so clearly, he's giving out a quest. Shin points out that Kim must be new here, judging by how he was just banging on the palace doors like a maniac. He adds that he likes Kim's eyes. They've got the look of a real adventurer. Then he pauses, grins, and says actually, he sees nothing but goblin in those eyes. To prove himself, Shin gives Kim a task: head into the lost ruins, take down the golem, and bring back its core. Only then will he be allowed into the castle. A new main quest appears: show your skills. Kim makes it to the dungeon and immediately groans. This place looks like hell. He mutters that the NPC should have warned him. It shouldn't be called Lost Ruin, it should be Lost Lives. Not that he's panicking. With his agility maxed, he can blitz through this solo. But this time, he has to move with Catherine in tow, and she can't take any hits. He doesn't like her or anything, but still, he doesn't want the hassle of dealing with her getting injured. Same goes for the goblin. So, Kim tells the goblin to go first, and says he'll call him later with Rally. He also reminds the goblin to hold on tight to the leash attached to Catherine. Then Kim takes a deep breath and launches forward, sprinting at top speed through the dungeon. Once he's clear, he uses Rally to call the goblin over. The goblin shows up instantly, impressive. Kim's really starting to love this skill, but there's a flaw. Rally only works on the goblin. So when the leash yanks, it doesn't just pull the goblin, it flings Catherine too. She goes flying, screaming, straight toward the lava pit. Kim panics and tells the goblin to do something fast. The goblin yanks the leash even harder, sending Catherine soaring through the air, and by some miracle, she crash lands right next to Kim. He immediately yells at her to wake up. He's terrified. If she dies here, he's screwed. Big time. He keeps shouting for her to get a grip, and then the scene shifts. A man's voice calls out Catherine's name. He's angry, scolding her for coming home late after hanging out with friends. He yells about how he's told her again and again that friends at her age are worthless nobodies, just fleeting distractions that'll all be forgotten someday. He's also fuming about her short skirt and makeup, tells her she's already acting like those low-class degenerates. Catherine quietly apologizes, says she won't do it again, and she repeats it over and over, that she'll never do it again. The man keeps yelling, saying he's worried about what people will think of him if they find out he has a daughter like Catherine. He says he's had enough and wants to teach her a lesson. Catherine keeps apologizing, crying, even calling out for her mom. But her mom just watches silently from outside the room as the father continues his outburst. In the end, the father mutters that she's his only flaw. Back in the present, Catherine is still unconscious, and Goblin is chilling with Kim. Goblin just sticks its tongue out and laughs. The Goblin dude translates it and says Goblin suggested that someone like Kim, who probably never had a shot with a girl this pretty, should take the chance and try CPR. Kim is completely thrown off. He can't believe Goblin actually said that, but oddly enough, he's starting to understand the goblin's weird language now. As he thinks it through, he reminds himself that this is just a game. Even if touch feels real, actually breathing into someone's mouth isn't a real mechanic here. He figures it doesn't hurt to try. There are laws in real life, something like nice laws or Good Samaritan laws, where trying to help someone in distress isn't a crime. Maybe the shock of the moment will actually wake her up. He's definitely not doing this for any weird reason. He convinces himself he's doing the right thing and performs CPR. Just then, a notification pops up. The butler's calling in. The butler sees Kim's face on the screen and instantly flips out. He calls Kim a mutt and asks what exactly he thinks he's doing. The butler isn't having any of it. He says, so this is what Kim wanted to show him? That's it. He's going to kill him. Kim panics, trying to explain that Catherine's safe. He swears she's not dead at all. The butler, however, says he already knows that. He's logged into the game for work, and the real-world medical team is constantly updating him on her vitals. Turns out, she's wearing a rare magical dress, the White Spider's dress. It might look soft, but it's basically as tough as steel. Unless she ends up in some secret, high-level dungeon, she'll be totally fine. That info blows Kim's mind. He really thought she might have been dead. The butler continues, saying the only reason he called was to make sure not even a single strand of Kim's grubby hair touches her while she's unconscious. He wants to see how she's doing immediately, but Kim, feeling awkward and fed up, just disconnects the call. The butler, absolutely furious. Kim and Goblin look at each other and just burst into laughter like maniacs. Kim says they should just go all out and run straight to the boss room now. So they do, with Catherine dragged along like a human skateboard thanks to their crazy speed. They dodge traps like spinning spears and broken bridges. Goblin even yanks her mid-air to keep her from falling. They figure if she's not taking damage in real life, they might as well make the most of this weird situation. Then, it's time to face the golem boss. The fight kicks off and Kim gets a bit too excited. He ends up tossing Catherine like a projectile, and it actually works out. They even earn a goblin point from it. But when the golem moves to attack Catherine, Kim loses it. He calls her his multi-purpose anti-trap diffuser and tells Goblin to finish the golem off in one shot. Goblin doesn't disappoint. One huge hit and boom, the golem explodes. Kim's not even surprised. He just wants the core and to be done with it. But of course, nothing's that easy. The golem regenerates. All its pieces reattach themselves, and now it's even bigger. Phase 2 begins. Its level has increased too. Kim is just like, seriously? Still, he tells Goblin to smash it again. Goblin jumps in, breaks it again, and guess what? Phase 3. It regenerates again, now at level 50. Kim can't take it anymore. He yells at the golem for cheating. This time, he changes tactics. He tells Goblin to not destroy the thing, just block the attacks. Every time they destroy it, it gets stronger, like some twisted respawn boss mechanic. Goblin, of course, ignores that completely. It just stands there, takes a hit, and then smacks the golem again. Boom! Another explosion. Kim's now just running in circles trying to avoid getting blown up while yelling that he said block, not get hit. He finally figures out the issue. Unless the core is destroyed, the golem will keep coming back, just like how the Aviton Guild dealt with that steel giant. But the problem is, Kim doesn't know where this golem's weak point is. Unlike those guys, he doesn't have the intel. He thinks maybe he could just destroy everything, but then what? A level 200 golem? One that's even stronger than Goblin? Nope, that'd be bad. Meanwhile, Catherine has regained a little awareness. She's just sitting up, dazed, watching all this chaos. And just as the golem raises a giant fist to crush her again, she sees it, the same way the Geiger monster attacked her in the past. That moment triggers something. A shock runs through her, and she starts screaming. As Catherine screams, all the explosions around get even more intense. Even Kim and the goblins start panicking. But Kim tries to calm himself down, thinking she should be okay. Her armor should be able to take this kind of damage. Then again, the monster keeps punching non-stop. Kim starts to get worried. Maybe this is too much even for her gear. Suddenly, Catherine appears behind Kim, totally confused and yelling, "What the hell is going on here?" Kim is shocked. She's awake, but Catherine's more focused on where she is and who the heck Kim is. Turns out, she used her magician skill, escape, and bailed herself out. Kim is impressed. Of course someone like her would have an emergency escape spell, but she still wants answers and is pissed because she almost died. Kim can't believe she actually woke up. A part of him worries she might remember everything that happened while she was out cold. But he also thinks, whatever, she's fine. She should be thanking me, not yelling. He proudly tells her that after she passed out, he got permission from the chairman himself to take care of her with all his heart and soul. Catherine isn't buying it. She's furious and demands a proper explanation. Kim starts giving a half-hearted one, saying something about how she passed out in a hidden dungeon and he was the only one around. Then Catherine flips again, yelling that he didn't even warn her about the monster's punch. She assumes Kim bailed and left her behind. Now she's really scared, not just of the game but of real life. She's terrified that her dad might find out she used Heaven's Door and that he'll kill her. In real life, she's screaming too. The butler sees her vitals spike and panics. The doctors confirm she's awake, but something is clearly wrong in the game. The butler instantly blames Kim and starts imagining all the worst-case scenarios. He wonders, what did that bastard do to her? The medical team debates whether to force a logout, but one of them says it's too dangerous, especially with her mind just regaining consciousness. Also, logouts are disabled during dungeon raids, so the butler decides he'll jump in himself to confirm what's going on. Back in the dungeon, the ruined golem uses rock missile, basically explosive fist missiles, toward Catherine, who's still running around terrified. Kim yells at her, saying she can't outrun that thing at her speed. Goblin saves her mid-run by smashing the missiles, but she keeps panicking, screaming, "I'm scared," over and over. Kim realizes this won't work. She's a liability like this, so he tells Goblin to knock her out. But just then, Catherine starts crying and begging for help. She says, "I don't know how you're connected to my dad's company, but I'll pay you more. Just help me." Kim's confused but reassures her that they'll get out of here safely. Catherine interrupts, that's not what she meant. She doesn't just want to escape the dungeon. She wants to escape everything. Her dad, her mom, the Sam Young group, all of it. She's done. She's desperate. She says she doesn't want to get hit anymore and screams in raw fear. Kim is left stunned as he watches her break down. Then a notification pops up. It's the butler calling again, raging, saying, "That's enough. Show me Miss Catherine, or I'm coming in myself." Kim tells the Goblin to quit dancing and stall the golem for a sec. He picks up the call and sarcastically says, "What do you think I'm doing? Eating her? Chill. You doubting me like this is making my job hard." He even forces a smile on Catherine's face using his fingers and says, "See? She's smiling. Doesn't that put you at ease? I'm not kidnapping her. I'm helping her recover," all while making a goblin face. The butler watches this and thinks something feels off. Catherine doesn't even look conscious. So was her earlier screaming just part of a seizure? He starts thinking, maybe this was all just a huge misunderstanding. She's clearly not doing great, so the butler tells the others that if Kim is still in the dungeon, he should get out now. He also says this whole arrangement is over. They're pulling her out. But Kim isn't ready to accept that. He says they can't just drop everything at such a crucial moment. Before he can say anything more, the call cuts off. Kim's annoyed. He's not about to let the butler call the shots and end things just like that. But before he can do anything else, Catherine suddenly grabs him by the collar and starts yelling. Trying to stay calm, Kim reminds her that she better keep her word about the money. But she just throws it back in his face, saying that was all a lie. That hits Kim hard. This is not the turn he expected. He tries to reason with her, saying she must have misunderstood. So, he tells her to listen carefully. He really needs that money. And if she doesn't pay up, he's just going to tell her people that she woke up and collect a fat reward from the Sam Young group. But Catherine, crying now, says she'll figure something out. If she has to sell all her gear, she will. She just begs him to keep all of this a secret. Everything she's wearing, she says, is top-tier stuff. He can have it. Kim isn't sure if she's messing with him. He wonders out loud what that gear could even be worth. Maybe 100? Catherine says it should be around 100 million. Hearing that number, Kim shifts immediately. He gets serious, tells the Goblin it's time to work. Meanwhile, the Goblin has been pounding the golem non-stop, pushing itself to its 5th enhancement stage. It's now level 170 and even has 4 arms. Kim gets annoyed, saying that the Goblin was only supposed to stall the golem, not beef it up into a death machine. He calls the Goblin a complete bastard and starts sprinting. If that thing lands a punch, it's over. Just then, a magic blast, Icicle Blast, freezes the golem solid. Kim is confused at first, wondering if the fight's already over. But no, it's just a status effect. The freeze won't last long, especially against something that high level. Catherine's the one who cast the spell. She snaps at Kim, asking why he's just standing around. Does he seriously want to fight a level 170 monster? They all need to get the hell out of there before it breaks free. So Kim, Catherine, and the Goblin bolt. They spot a door ahead and pray it's the exit. But just as they're running, Catherine suddenly jerks back. Her leash tightens and she's stuck. Kim and the Goblin keep running for a second before realizing what happened. Catherine's being pulled back toward the golem, screaming for help. Kim turns around and sees it. Feels all too familiar. Just like last time, he's running while she's in danger. But he doesn't want to repeat that. Last time, he ran because he was weak. Now, he thinks he should save her. After all, if she couldn't survive a level 80 monster, how could she survive a level 170? Still, Kim keeps running. He tries to rationalize it. She probably has doctors who can patch her up again. But he doesn't. Catherine, meanwhile, breaks down. She screams louder and louder, but deep down, she knows he won't come back. Nobody ever does. It's always been like this. In the end, no one saves her. She's devastated as the Goblin's punch nears. But then, slashes fly through the air. Someone has arrived. It's Shin. He says she did a great job holding on, and now it's his turn to clean up the mess. Kim is stunned. He has no idea why Shin is even here. But regardless, Shin just saved Catherine like some kind of god. Now Kim wonders why he didn't realize it sooner. The moment a player gets defeated, the NPC god just pops up, like it was all part of the plan from the beginning. This quest, it's just built that way. The god showing up, everything, it's part of the setup. A forced defeat quest. There are times when quests are made to be unwinnable, no matter who takes them on. And this was one of those times. He thinks maybe the golem's core didn't even exist in the first place. If he had gone all out on it, it probably would have just kept leveling up endlessly. If someone clueless picks a fight, they get naturally crushed, and the story just moves into a cool cutscene where the NPC shows up and wipes the floor with the enemy. It's the perfect way to flex how strong the NPC is. Kim remembers getting hit by that level 50 attack earlier, but there wasn't any real pain. He figures the system probably built in safeguards to stop any actual accidents. Then Shin screams at the golem, yelling at it for daring to lay a hand on his subordinate. Kim's not exactly thrilled, but he decides to just let Shin handle it for now. Though he's thinking, who is Shin even calling his subordinate? Shin tells them to brace themselves for what's coming. Kim shrugs and thinks, sure, go ahead, Sir NPC. But suddenly there's a blast. Golem smacks Shin away like he's nothing. Still, Shin just brushes it off, saying it wasn't even a proper warm-up. Kim watches, confused. Why is this guy acting like he's totally got it under control? Shin charges in again, and again gets launched by the golem. But once more, he repeats it's not worth a warm-up. That's when Kim finally checks his level 170. He realizes the average player is maybe level 30 to 40. What the hell is this guy doing here? The Ruins golem had started at level 40. A normal player might barely beat it. Then it comes back at level 45. Still possible. Then again at 50 and they're done. That's when the big NPC arrives to end it for good. All while this chaos is happening, the goblin is just chilling like it's watching a show. Kim thinks how nobody's ever managed to level the golem up to 170. So this kind of thing? It's unheard of. Meanwhile, Shin just keeps going. Same lines over and over. It's obvious now. The cutscene can't move on until the golem is defeated. And if Shin's the NPC meant to end the quest, then until the golem's destroyed, Shin can't die either. At least that's what Kim hopes. He figures maybe the golem's core only materialized after the godlike NPC showed up. So now he tries to guess where it might be. Oddly, Shin starts acting kind of like the goblin and attacks the monster. But before he lands the final blow, Goblin casually chucks a rock and finishes the job. Because Shin had aimed at the monster's core, Goblin just followed the cue. The golem finally crumbles. And again, Shin repeats his line about how that wasn't even a warm-up. He says that without him, everyone would be dead by now. Kim disagrees, but at least it's over. Everyone's alive. That's what matters. But Catherine, she still looks terrified. Kim notices. Even outside the dungeon, Kim feels super awkward. He thinks he's going to die of secondhand embarrassment. Shin, even though he got beaten up like crazy, is acting like some kind of cool boss. He tells Kim something dramatic, how just surviving that place proves his strength. Now, he says they can get serious. Kim cringes and thinks even the woman who betrayed him didn't look this bad. Shin starts bragging about how the vice captain of the Royal Knights, Alphonse, is personally acquainted with them. But he warns Kim not to ask anything about him. He's got circumstances. Kim didn't expect anything useful from this guy, but surprisingly, that helped break the tension. Shin says they'll meet again, and before leaving, he drops another ego bomb about how Kim better not get too excited about working with him because Shin is way above the clouds. Then he finally walks away. Kim breathes a sigh of relief now that the awkward vibe is gone. But Catherine still seems shaken, and it's making Kim uneasy too. She suddenly screams out that what happened earlier was all his fault. But before Kim can respond, someone else shows up, Catherine's father. He arrives and says something like, "So, you've finally woken up, Catherine." Kim's confused. He doesn't recognize the man at all. The guy has gear Kim's never seen, and his aura is just overwhelming. Is he some insanely rich dude or just a next-level monster? Either way, Kim feels like he's not someone you mess with. Catherine, though, recognizes him right away. He's her father, the king. Her father says he knew she had regained consciousness the moment she had that seizure. He explains he's been worried every single day. He was hoping she'd recover naturally when she got older. But now, seeing her still playing tricks, he says he just doesn't know anymore. Then, turning to Kim, he thanks him for taking care of his dear daughter. He says their faith in her recovery has finally been rewarded. He promises Kim a proper reward from the staff and says they'll be in touch. He then looks to Catherine and asks if they should head out. But Kim notices she's totally silent. He was expecting her to call him garbage, to cuss him out, to say he's not worth saving. Anything, but she just looks like she's dying inside. He doesn't get it. Why isn't she saying something? He wants her to say it again, to ask for help, to want to be saved. Kim realizes it's his fault. He ran away. He betrayed her trust. So maybe it makes sense that she wouldn't ask him again. But still, Maybe this time, just maybe, he could save her for real. So Kim calls out to the king, yelling for him to wait. He says that he knows who that guy really is, President Han Ki-moon of Samyang Group. He's supposed to be kind, noble, a real role model. Kim turns to Catherine and asks her if that's true, if he really is that great guy people talk about. But then, why does her face look like she's about to break down when someone like that is standing in front of her? Kim says he can't let her go like this. He tries to pull her with him and asks why she's hesitating. But when he reaches out, he realizes she's not moving toward him. So then, how is he supposed to save her? What right does he even have? He breaks promises like it's nothing. He's a coward, maybe the worst there is. He doesn't even believe he deserves to be saved himself. So why did he think he could be anyone's hero? Maybe he was always meant to be with goblins. Nearby, a few people notice the king and start whispering. They talk about the Night King, part of the trio who cleared the Duke's Grand Archive. Everyone turns and gasps. They all realize it's Han Ki-moon, president of Samyang Group. The real deal. Everyone around is losing it trying to get a screenshot with Han Ki-moon. They're buzzing about the stunning woman beside him too. When someone asks about her, the father just brushes it off, saying she's someone he happened to party with. He even turns to Catherine and coldly tells her to burn this moment into her memory. The way people look at him versus how they'd look at her if they ever found out she's his daughter. He warns her of the outrage and backlash it would cause. Crowds start rushing in from all directions, yelling out, "President of Samyang Group." Some people even push Kim aside, telling him to move, he's blocking their view. They're frantic not to miss their chance to meet the Night King himself. They even threaten that Kim will pay for standing in their way. Kim watches all this and thinks, yeah, she's definitely the Samyang Group's precious daughter. But then again, he thinks no matter how bad her life is, it can't possibly be worse than his own. Maybe he shouldn't feel guilty. He got paid, this is the end. Right then, Sangrul shows up out of nowhere, casually asking if some big shot has arrived. Kim is frustrated, wondering how this guy manages to show up literally everywhere. He assumes Sangrul was trapped somewhere like this too, but Sangrul says it's not a sewer, it's a receiver. Turns out, after being arrested by guards, he escaped and has been hiding here ever since. According to him, the view is great, though Kim definitely gets what kind of views he's referring to. Kim immediately calls him a criminal pervert, but Sangrul changes the subject. He starts talking about the woman with Han Ki-moon. He says she looked seriously injured compared to the president. Kim tries to act clueless, saying maybe she got hurt fighting monsters and that Sangrul shouldn't be so nosy. To justify things, Kim explains that in Heaven's Door, pain is just a signal to the brain. There are no real injuries, no bruises. But Sangrul doesn't buy it. He tells Kim that from where he was watching, his so-called hidden view, he saw real physical bruises on her body. That stops Kim in his tracks. Suddenly furious, Kim yells out at King Ki-moon, asking him to wait and demanding answers. He calls him a piece of trash and accuses him of kidnapping someone in broad daylight in front of a crowd. Kim demands to know if the man has no shame. But Han Ki-moon just puts on a fake smile and tells Kim to stop making baseless accusations that might cause misunderstandings. Of course, Goblin Dude, always the instigator, starts mocking Han Ki-moon's tone in his weird goblin way, stirring things up even more. Then Kim drops a bomb. He declares in front of everyone that Catherine is his girlfriend. That's enough to leave the entire crowd stunned. Even Catherine herself looks like she's been hit by lightning. Kim keeps going, saying that they've even done things together that most couples don't dare to try. Catherine is completely speechless. People in the crowd start whispering. They wonder if it's true. If it is, this could become a massive scandal. Still, some are skeptical. There's no proof and big companies deal with fake rumors all the time. Plus, Han Ki-moon doesn't even flinch. Then the king coolly replies, saying that Kim must be mistaken. He brushes it off and says he's in a hurry, clearly trying to leave the scene. But before he can, a new figure shows up. Another butler. Except it's Sangrul again, now introducing himself dramatically as Patrick Sangrul, elite butler of the Samyang Group. He says he rushed over after hearing that Miss Catherine, one of the group's heir candidates, has awakened. He even takes Catherine's hand and proclaims her the future of Samyang. Catherine is overwhelmed. She looks totally lost, unsure what's even happening. Everyone else is in shock too. Just a minute ago, the president was saying she was just a temporary party member. So now they're wondering what the real story is. They all start pressing Han Ki-moon, asking him to clarify. Was she just a party member, or is she really his daughter? It looks like the king is cornered. Kim leans in and tells the president that maybe now would be a good time to just admit she's his daughter. He even suggests a safe PR spin. Say he failed to raise her properly and will guide her better from now on. Kim adds that while it may stir up some chaos, it's still a manageable scandal. Then he offers the alternative. If Han Ki-moon confesses, Kim will back off and claim he was confused or mistaken about the relationship. But Kim also warns him, if he doesn't come clean, then he's going to go public with everything, including the way he's mistreated his own daughter. At this, Han Ki-moon snaps. He yells out, asking what weight a mutt like Kim carries and how he dares to pull such a stunt. He starts screaming so loud that everyone, including Kim, Catherine, and even Sangrul, has to cover their ears. Kim is stunned by how absurdly loud the old man's voice is, and even wonders if it's some kind of skill. Then Han Ki-moon accuses all three of them, Kim, Catherine, and Sangrul, of conspiring to blackmail him. He calls them cons and declares he'll never waver because he is Samyang Group. Then he says something no one expected. He's going to execute all three of them. And just like that, he activates PK mode, ready to take them all out as proof that he has no ties to any of them. Just as the king is about to launch his attack, the goblin appears out of nowhere and smacks him away. Perfect timing. Kim nods, thinking the goblin did a great job, but he also panics. If people figure out the goblin is on his side, they're both screwed. So without wasting time, he uses his goblin throwing skill and literally tosses the goblin far from the scene. Before the dust can settle and people start asking questions, Kim casually shrugs and says he has no idea what just happened. That crazy goblin just charged at him for no reason. He wonders aloud if the creature had completely lost it. Everyone's dumbfounded. The King of Knights just got knocked out in one hit and flown across the area like a ragdoll. It's almost too insane to believe. Kim turns to Catherine and tells her to pull herself together. They need to leave now. But instead of listening, she starts yelling like she's about to explode, asking who the hell Kim thinks he is, and accusing him of pretending to save her. She clearly wants to be left alone. Kim doesn't have time for this. He tells her bluntly that it's not her call. Whether he helps her or ditches her is entirely up to him. He says he doesn't know what kind of knight in shining armor she's been waiting for, but she needs to snap out of it. In the real world, all that's waiting for her are guys like him. Total trash. She screams at him to shut up, but Kim pushes back, saying he has no clue what kind of evil crap her dad's been pulling every day. But guess what? Karma caught up to him, and now it's her turn. The vultures are already circling, smelling weakness. He reminds her how good she already is at betrayal, considering she already did it to him once. So he tells her to stop moping around and go betray her father, just like a true goblin. He even jokes about starting a goblin brotherhood, trying to make everyone like him. Then, acting like he has no clue who she is, he says something about maybe mistaking her for someone else. He laughs nervously and says he just remembered he left the stove on at home and has to leave, then casually walks away from the mess. Sangrul approaches Catherine next. He tells her that if she has anything she wants to say, now's the time. Catherine finally calms down, takes a deep breath, and starts spilling the truth. The news blows up. Headlines are everywhere. Han Ki-moon, the two-faced chairman of Samyang Group, public gentleman, abusive father. Catherine reveals that she's his daughter, and shares the story of the abuse she's suffered since childhood. At first, some people doubt her, thinking she might be faking her identity, but she quickly proves everything on her socials. The doubts disappear, and the public outrage spreads like wildfire. Samyang Group's image tanks. Their stock price crashes. Chairman Han suddenly announces he's sick, but anyone can tell he's just faking it. Kim, watching all of this unfold on the news, figures this counts as a happy ending. Mostly. Still, he can't sleep. He's paranoid that Han Ki-moon might send someone to kill him in his sleep. Sangrul tries to reassure him, pointing out that their fight video is all over the internet. If anything happened to Kim right now, the first person everyone would suspect is Han Ki-moon. Kim jokes that it could just as easily be Sangrul, but Sangrul insists it would be the chairman, not him. Even with this logic, Kim still feels uneasy. He mutters to himself that he really shouldn't have messed with a megacorp like that, especially not without getting paid. But Sangrul tells him that what he did was worth more than money. He made a real difference. Kim just rolls his eyes and says he'd rather trust a booger than trust Sangrul. Then, he remembers something weird. When did Sangrul even get that butler uniform? He definitely told him to get one, but where from? Sangrul casually admits he just stole it. And right on cue, a guard shows up and drags him away. Looks like this guy really is beyond saving. But before Kim can even catch his breath, a new notification pops up on the system. It's from the Samyang Group's lackey. However, he doesn't like being referred to that way. He says he just wanted to thank Kim for helping her regain consciousness. He also mentions that he had no idea she was going through something like that, even after serving her for years. Kim, on the other hand, wonders if there's any kind of material reward for him. I mean, he did something amazing, and yet the chairman's being super stingy. It's wild that he got fired without a single cent just because of some misunderstanding. The butler apologizes, saying he's not part of the Samyang group anymore. He couldn't stay in a company like that after what happened, so yeah, he's unemployed now. But Kim's more worried about Catherine. If even this butler is quitting, how is she supposed to feel safe? He says he can barely sleep these days, so how's she supposed to? The butler agrees. Just like Kim said, Miss and everyone who cares about her are really worried. There's always a risk. She's the poor daughter who supposedly shamed her father, so she could be a target. That's why, he says, he brought her over and started streaming. The butler spent the last of his money setting up a studio for her. Now the whole world is watching her, and he figures this fame might be the best way to keep her safe. She's already gaining subscribers and getting fan gifts. Honestly, I wouldn't mind subscribing too. She even dances for her viewers. With this setup, no one can mess with her while she's streaming. And if she ever doesn't go live one day, people will know something's wrong. She doesn't seem super into it, but she's clearly trying. Still, when Kim checks out her stream, he seriously questions that lack of enthusiasm, because what the hell? She's really good at this, like suspiciously good. It's like she was made for this stuff. The butler admits it's a bit late, but he wants Miss to finally live the life she missed out on. And it's all thanks to Kim, so he says thank you again. But Kim tells him to stop being so weird about it, and if he's really grateful, to just send him some money. The butler says it's already in his mailbox, though not actual money. He says Kim will like it anyway. Miss prepared it herself. Then he hangs up, saying, "See you." Kim, mid-sentence, is like, "I didn't want that. I want money." But the butler hangs up first. He knows how to make an exit. Meanwhile, Catherine is having the time of her life on stream. She's thanking 3,000 balloons from her boyfriend and another 1,000 from someone named Catherine Lover. She even asks the chat if there's any dance they want her to do. After hearing that, the butler starts wondering if maybe things aren't as perfect as they seem. Then Catherine busts out the bike dance, and he has this thought. Maybe Miss wasn't meant to inherit a megacorp. Maybe she was meant to become a mega streamer. Later, at the NPC mailkeeper, Kim shows up to check his mail. He says it's probably something crazy valuable, like armor made of solid gold, so he asks her to be careful with it. The receptionist says of course, she's been keeping it safe for him. Then she opens the box and gives him the item. But the item turns out to be cursed. Just touching it causes a strange mental reaction. The receptionist herself starts acting unhinged after touching it. She begins yelling at Kim, accusing him of acting entitled and questioning who he thinks he is to order her around. Kim brushes it off, thinking to himself that of course he's entitled to the item. It's his mail. He examines the object and finds out that it's a rare, cursed bloodworm whip. It's a summoner's weapon, made from bloodworm leather. Extremely rare, but also extremely dangerous. If used without removing the curse, the user receives a random status effect, and the summon minion goes into a rampage. Kim wonders what kind of messed up curse this even is. He starts to worry that using it might make him act like the crazed receptionist. At this point, he's starting to feel like Catherine screwed him over one last time. Later on, he goes to Shun to pick up his next quest. Shun tells him that the task is to wipe out a goblin village. Kim just stares at him and, without saying much, summons his goblin using the rally skill. He gives Shin a look that basically says, "Seriously?" He can't believe this is the kind of quest he's being given. Shun repeats the task, casually mentioning that it's a simple extermination mission involving some evil goblins who've been bothering the locals. He reassures Kim that they're easy monsters and says there's no need for him to help. The Kim finishes it quickly. There's still tons of other work lined up. Kim looks down at his goblin and sighs. He mutters to himself that this was inevitable. You just can't avoid fighting goblins in games. He tries to psych up his goblin and asks if he's ready to do this. The goblin responds with a strange look, and Kim suddenly gets the feeling that the goblin might have just snorted at him. Elsewhere, a merchant riding a carriage is confused, wondering where the hell his horse disappeared to. Back with Kim, he's trying his best to talk to his goblin, who is acting up and clearly not on board. Kim tries to explain that he didn't have a choice earlier and had to throw him. It wasn't like he could just let everyone know they were on the same side. But the goblin is still upset and refuses to respond. Frustrated, Kim yells that the goblin never listens and always causes trouble. He tells him to go to hell, that he hates him, and that someone like him is a complete pain to deal with. Then, mid-rant, Kim suddenly remembers something someone once told him. One-sided relationships are fragile. And now it finally clicks. He realizes what that person meant. Even so, he says he's had enough. At that moment, another goblin appears, laughing like a maniac. Kim stares, completely lost, wondering what the hell is even going on anymore. Kim immediately tells the goblin to take care of the situation. But before anything can happen, an explosion rocks the area as something slams into the carriage. Meanwhile, the other goblin is still very much present, laughing like a maniac. Kim starts getting suspicious. What the hell is his goblin doing? Why is the enemy still alive? For a second, he even wonders if the two goblins have teamed up against him. That thought becomes more convincing when the rogue goblin jumps straight onto Kim's head and starts messing with his hair. Kim keeps yelling at his goblin to help out, to do something, anything, but right when the goblin is about to go full swing to take out the menace, Kim panics. He tells him not to do it, since he's definitely going to get caught up in the damage too. Suddenly, another figure enters the chaos, a random NPC from the carriage service. The guy shows up looking confused and tries to figure out what's going on. Kim points out in a frenzy that it's a monster, a goblin, and it somehow got on board. Once the NPC spots the creature and confirms it really is a goblin, he figures it must have sneaked on because they're close to a goblin village. He tells Kim to just stay still and promises to take it out in one shot with his gun. Kim quickly tells him not to shoot both of them, just the goblin in front. The NPC nods, aims, and fires, only for the bullet to go straight into Kim's head. Kim freaks out, obviously, because that shot was meant for the goblin. Meanwhile, the goblin is still being a menace, and Kim's goblin is completely failing to get it under control. Kim's frustration reaches its peak as he starts cursing out both goblins for ruining his day. Eventually, Kim manages to capture the rogue goblin, who immediately starts begging for its life. It says it just thought a fellow goblin had been captured and was only trying to help. It didn't mean any harm. Kim wasn't expecting it to talk like this. Now he's starting to suspect that since he's a goblin summoner, he can actually understand goblin speak. At this point, he's basically becoming a goblin himself. The goblin keeps pleading. It says it only came to save a fellow goblin and didn't want to hurt anyone. Kim asks why, then, did it try to bite off his head? He admits he didn't have a personal grudge, but now that this has happened, it works out. He'll just head to their village and wipe out every last one of them. The NPC then tells him that they've arrived. This is the path to the goblin village. From here on, Kim has to go on foot. The NPC says he could go farther, but it's just too much of a hassle, so he's leaving Kim here. Kim's a little relieved he kept the goblins alive, since this is clearly going to be a trap-filled place. The captured goblin, realizing what's about to happen, freaks out, says if someone has to die, let it be him. The rest of the goblins didn't do anything wrong. It asks Kim if he wouldn't save a fellow human if he saw them in trouble. Kim, totally unimpressed, grabs the goblin by its ears with a scary look and tells him that no, he wouldn't. That answer makes the goblin even more terrified. It insists that they don't hate humans, that they're actually kind by nature. Then it flips the question. Wasn't Kim heading to their village to mess with them first? It's always the humans who pick fights, not the goblins. Now even Kim has to pause for a moment. He thinks about it and realizes he was just killing goblins because of the quest. He didn't even have a personal vendetta. He never saw them doing anything evil. He simply assumed they were bad because that's what games tell you. Goblins are bad. So yeah, he admits he never thought twice about slaying goblins. But still, it's not like anyone would really care if a goblin died, right? Right when he's having this internal debate, a goblin shows up with a baby in her arms and calls out to the one Kim's holding. She's his wife. Kim definitely wasn't ready for that. The goblin in his grasp freaks out and starts shouting at his wife and kid to run and forget about him. Kim sighs and signals Goblin to throw a pebble. His goblin obediently picks one up and tosses it toward the fleeing pair. They both panic as the pebble comes flying toward them. But then, the captured goblin breaks free and throws himself in front of the pebble, getting hit instead. Kim stares at the scene, a little shaken. He's seen humans beat their own kids just to save their own skin, and here's this goblin sacrificing himself to protect his wife and child. Kim can't even call this guy evil anymore. There's no way. These goblins are too wholesome, too good, too sweet, and too domestic, like a cute little family. How could he hurt creatures like this? Because let's be honest, from everything he's seen so far, the humans are the actual villains in this world. Kim starts thinking the Goblin Lord must be joking when he called him a goblin. These goblins are 100 times better than him. Eventually, he gets welcomed into the goblin village like one of their own. The goblins are a little wary of him at first, but then he realizes they're not exactly hostile. They're actually kind of chill. But then it hits him, they're calling him a goblin. They ask where he came from and point out how hideous he looks. They all start messing with him, teasing him about his appearance. Kim refuses to believe that he's a goblin, but the goblin dad just tells everyone to calm down. He explains that when he first saw Kim on the carriage, he had a moment of hesitation too. But now, looking at Kim's face, no one's going to think that's a human. Kim seriously considers that maybe he should have taken this guy out when he had the chance. Now he awkwardly asks if he can leave. He says he's worried, but the goblin dad reassures him there's no need to be scared. However, Kim is still worried that at some point he's going to end up killing all of them. The goblin goblin just laughs it off and tells him he needs to stop with that talk already. He heard an adventurer, so at the very least he's got to offer a meal or else he'll lose face. As night settles in, lights start to flicker across the village, and a dish called goblin poison soup gets served. Yeah, it literally has poison in its name. Meanwhile, the goblin scolds the kids, telling them not to run around bumping into stuff since there's a guest in the house. The little ones are zipping around like it's a playground. Kim eyes the soup and admits to himself that he's a little skeptical about eating it, but he still takes a bite. In his head, he starts thinking how lucky he is that players can't taste anything in the game. What the hell is he even doing? Sitting here eating soup with monsters? Still, when he digs in, the spicy flavor hits him like a truck. One of the goblins smacks him on the back and he takes a ton of damage from the combo. He yells at them to stop laughing, but of course they just laugh harder. Later, he gets curious and asks how the goblin and his wife even ended up traveling together. He says he's never seen a human and a goblin actually get along before. But Kim doesn't exactly admit they're close or anything. He just shrugs and says the goblin is his summoned creature, just a subordinate, really. The goblin, confused, admits he has no idea what that even means. But he still says if he ever had the chance to travel the world with an adventurer, he'd probably be the most successful goblin in history. He tells Kim how he envies him, and that his whole family and village will probably never even leave this place. Kim knows what he means. To anyone looking from the outside, they're just low-level trash monsters, stuck in some early dungeon with no way out. That's just how it is. Trying to lift the mood, the goblin's wife gently teases her husband, saying he's being all gloomy again and promises to bring some snacks. She glances at Kim too, wondering why even he looks like he's down. Kim gives her a small smile and admits that even though the goblin's a monster, he still has a sweet wife. He, on the other hand, is human and doesn't even have a wife or friends for that matter. He adds that he doesn't even have the guts or selflessness to throw himself in danger like the goblin had done earlier. He tells him straight up that he's just a pathetic guy who doesn't even trust his own kind. But someone like this goblin, someone who's better than him, definitely has what it takes to do things even Kim can't. And with that, he gives the goblin a thumbs up and tells him they're the same. That's when things take a turn. Out of nowhere, a goblin sneaks up behind Kim. While they've all been having these emotional heart-to-hearts, something or someone has launched an attack. Kim quickly remembers that evasion in the game depends on agility and wonders what the hell is going on. The goblins around him look panicked. For a moment, it even seems like maybe they were pretending to be friendly just to backstab him. Then he spots it, a cockroach. Turns out, the panic was probably just about the cockroach all along. But under the table, one of the goblin kids seems like he's about to attack Kim too. Just before he does, Kim's summoned goblin takes him out. Kim suddenly feels something near his leg and decides it's probably best to head back now. He tells himself he'd love to stay longer. But whatever's going on right now, it feels urgent. The goblin couple looks at each other, unsure what to do. In the end, they just tell Kim to be safe. As he walks away, tears form in his eyes. He mutters that these goblins really were good monsters. He also adds that someone should tell the kids he's sorry he didn't say goodbye. But just then, someone else shows up. And as soon as the stranger lays eyes on Kim, he says he's found one more goblin. Looks like, once again, everyone's mistaking Kim for a goblin. A fellow goblin starts crying for James, saying he always used to cook for him. Meanwhile, another player, confused by Kim's presence, wonders aloud whether Kim is a player too, and if so, what he's doing in a place like this. He suspects Kim might be farming goblins like everyone else and casually offers help. But Kim's expression changes. He's furious. He starts shouting about how dare someone lay a hand on his friends. Then he switches to PK mode and signals to the goblin to go ahead and fight. The goblin, however, tells another goblin to take the lead instead. Maybe because he senses something's off with these players, even if Kim still doesn't see it. When that other goblin makes a move, it gets kicked aside almost instantly. The goblin bro laughs it off, but Kim doesn't find it funny. He explodes in anger, yelling at the goblin that he told him not to attack. He accuses him of doing it on purpose. The other player, now even more confused, tries to make sense of it. He asks Kim why he's calling goblins his friends and challenging him out of nowhere. He wants to know if Kim holds some grudge or has a personal vendetta. Kim replies that the grudge is very real, After all, the guy attacked his friends without reason. Then he throws a punch and smacks the player in the face. But the player hits back harder, sending Kim flying and causing a small explosion on impact. Elsewhere, some other players are watching this unfold. They mention Minchul, apparently the same guy Kim is fighting, and wonder if he's going all out now, even though he was complaining earlier. They figure he's the only one who didn't want to do this hunt in the first place. Still, they're getting bored of the weak goblins dying in one hit and just want to finish the quest and head back. When they spot Kim lying there, Minchul tells them to take care of it. He explains that Kim charged at him, ranting about goblins being his friends. One of the party members thinks the whole thing is stupid. Fighting over goblins? Really? Minchul defends himself, saying that Kim started the PK, and he didn't even manage to finish him off. He suspects Kim has some high-tier gear, though. He says Kim fell off a cliff by himself while running away and asks them to wrap it up while he goes to finish off the rest of the goblins. The others take a look at Kim and comment that it kind of makes sense. If he considers goblins his friends, maybe he really does need to be taken out to complete the quest. One of them suggests they just get rid of him now before he causes more problems. Meanwhile, Minchul pushes forward and starts killing goblins left and right. One goblin just watches and laughs. Minchul gets disgusted and calls him out for it. He says it's messed up to laugh while your own kind is being slaughtered. To him, goblins are nothing but selfish trash, which is why extermination quests even exist. But then, as he's about to finish off the goblin, a huge explosion goes off. His teammates get worried, not sure what's happening. Back near the cliff, Kim starts laughing like a maniac. He knows exactly what's going on. He taunts the others, telling them if they're bored, they should try fighting that goblin instead. The chaos they're witnessing, it's all thanks to his summoned goblin, who has now become a monster-level threat. He brags that his goblin will end up being the strongest boss this place has ever seen. As the others rush in to take it down, Goblin hits them with explode smash after explode smash, completely overwhelming them. One of the female players is in shock when her kick gets caught in the goblin's teeth. She tries to play it cool, saying she's just surprised, not scared. There's no way she could lose to a goblin, right? Kim just keeps laughing harder. He walks over to Minchul, trying to wake him up. He wants him to witness this humiliation. He wants him to understand that they are all about to become a joke. Once word gets out that they lost to a goblin, no one will ever let them live it down. Kim mutters something under his breath, wondering why it's always a given that goblins are supposed to be the ones who lose. But before he can finish his thought, the lady in the group snaps at him to shut up. Still, Kim doesn't stop. He starts ranting about how humans are the real traitors, how they're the ones who backstab and lie. He accuses them of killing goblins and mounting their heads just to feel powerful. There's genuine rage in his voice, but also pride, because he says he's never done any of that. One of the other guys just tells her not to bother engaging with him. There's no point wasting energy when the goblin in front of them is clearly the real threat. Kim, though, is having another issue. His goblin isn't listening to him. He tries yelling at it, demanding it take everyone down, but the goblin doesn't even flinch. So, Kim figures maybe he needs to be polite. Maybe asking nicely will work. So, in a very dramatic move, he rushes forward, gets down on one knee, and bows deeply to the goblin. With all the theatrics of a desperate man, he pleads with it to save him this one time. He calls it King God Emperor Majesty Goat Goblin, promising that if the goblin doesn't fight now, he's going to die. The goblin pauses, looking at Kim, but doesn't respond right away. Kim, still bowing, is fully aware how humiliating it is to kneel before a goblin. But he reminds himself that dignity hasn't exactly done him any favors in life. Even as he tells himself he can't stand this, he keeps bowing. He then promises that he'll never boss the goblin around again, that he'll prepare the finest meals for him, even if he has to ration his own food. He admits he was wrong and begs for forgiveness. The girl watching this can't believe what she's seeing. Just a moment ago he was talking about goblins being his friends, and now he's practically worshipping one. She yells at Kim to get out of the way before she ends up hitting both him and the goblin together. But before she can make a move, the goblin launches a punch that sends her teammate flying with massive damage. She freezes, horrified, as her friend crashes down. Meanwhile, Kim just bursts out laughing. He says it must have been his prayers, because clearly the Goblin Lord has been moved, and it seems he's right. The goblin stands tall, seemingly pleased by Kim's complete lack of self-respect. Kim even gains a goblin point. Once again, he and his goblin bro are reunited. Together, they are the Gobmen. The girl is now genuinely panicking. She saw her friend get flattened with one hit and realizes that this goblin is no normal mob. She mutters something about how unfair this is for a basic goblin slaying quest. There's no way she can win, so she turns to run, hoping to regroup once they respawn back in town. But Kim doesn't let her off that easy. With a mocking tone, He asks if she really thinks she can just walk away after barging in and trying to kill them. And that's when the goblin grabs her by the legs, yanking her down to the ground mid-escape. Kim watches it happen and finally embraces his goblinity in full. Standing tall beside his goblin companion, he declares that they will no longer be oppressed. No more pointless slaughter of goblins for lazy quests. No more hiding in caves. A new era has begun. He raises his arms like a prophet and announces that their savior has come, that the Messiah of goblins walks among them. He says the message is clear. Humans are the traitors, they must all be eliminated. He calls for rebellion, and just like that, goblins begin pouring out from every corner, gathering behind the fallen girl. The revolution has begun. Perfect time to hype the video up. Let's just hope Kim doesn't take it too far, because if he does, someone might just unlock a Goblin Slayer class. At the Phoenix El Bazaar, people are chatting about goblins. Most think they're just useless little creatures, but then they notice something. A whole army of goblins is headed straight toward them. The same goblins they used to joke about are now charging in huge numbers, and leading them is a human. He's right in front, rallying the charge and yelling, "All right, my brave comrades, we're gonna topple this human city." But rewind to 3 hours earlier, when this all really began. Kim was standing in front of the lady and actually asked the goblin not to kill her, because in this world, dying sends players back to the shrine of revival in town, and he didn't want someone who murdered his kind to get off so easily. Her party members were already down, and since players faint in real life too when that happens, they couldn't even press the revive button. He figured she wouldn't want to end up like them. So, instead of killing her, Kim comes up with another plan. Since she's got a nice body, he figures he'll use her as a mount and ride her into the charge against the humans. He shouts to all the humans not to even think about logging out, reminding them that all their money and weapons are now in his hands. The lady hopes he'll return everything once this is all over, but Kim just tells her he's keeping her as a pet when the Goblin Age begins. Naturally, she's not thrilled about that. Meanwhile, the humans are freaking out. Word starts spreading that goblins are invading. Adventurers are quickly gathered, and someone runs to inform the Adventurers Guild. They can't believe it. Goblins are supposed to be fodder mobs, but the guy insists it's real and begs them to trust him. Tons of goblins are on their way. Some adventurers think the city guards can handle it. Others assume it's some kind of event, so it actually sounds fun. But Manny's not interested. He's worried it'll mess up their plans for the next dungeon. One guy says they shouldn't be so cold about it. Their self-defense levels should be fine anyway. And then bam, a goblin bursts through the door. But before he can do anything, a gun is already pointed at his face, and he gets launched back out just as fast. Clearly, goblins are here for real. People are now fully alert. How did that guy react so fast? Does he have eyes on the back of his head or what? Everyone starts getting hyped. What seemed like a joke turns into chaos as more goblins crash through the windows. The battle kicks off hard. Adventurers start firing off magic attacks left and right. They claim it's all too easy. The Flame Knight, level 58 and Guild Master of Hellfire, wipes out a bunch of goblins with his fire magic. He's disappointed though. He was expecting more from a special event. Even 100 goblins aren't enough to keep things interesting for him. Then there's Gemini, his Vice Master, a level 52 professor. He uses his X-ray skill and corrects him. It's not just 100. He sees tens of thousands out there, maybe even more. Now the adventurers are getting slammed. The sheer number of goblins is overwhelming. They're getting swarmed hard. Another adventurer speaks up. He notices that the whole town is in serious danger. That's Horace Feeliver, a level 62 gunslinger and master of the Armstrong Guild. He says they can't just sit and watch and turns to his vice master, Charlotte Stone, an alchemist at level 52. But she does want to sit this one out. Horace, though, is all in. He's ready to fight. Then there's Irene. She remembers the one goblin she saw before, the cute one, and realizes these goblins aren't like that at all. So she decides to join the fight, heading in with Michelle. Michelle, of course, makes a dramatic entrance by bursting through the roof. However, Kim is laughing like a maniac, saying they're just giving the humans a taste of their own medicine. Since the humans wanted to destroy the goblin village, now they'll destroy the entire human settlement. The goblins are chasing everyone around. People are running, trying to save themselves and their belongings. They shout at the goblins to stay back. Among them is Gisivli, the magician at level 31. She notices that although the humans were initially panicking and running away, when they actually start fighting back, the goblins go down pretty easily. The only issue is the sheer number of them. Still, goblins are weak mobs. The humans can't believe it. How dare a bunch of filthy goblins even try something like this? They start launching fireballs, causing chaos everywhere. But then something changes. The humans begin to enjoy themselves. themselves. They've realized that most of these goblins are maybe level 20 at best. It's easy mowing them down. Kim, however, isn't happy about this sudden human counterattack. He yells at the Great Goblin Lord, complaining that their comrades' morale is dropping. He begs the Great Goblin Lord to show them his power. The woman Kim had been riding on thinks maybe she should just quit the game altogether. The Great Goblin Lord laughs when he hears Kim's desperate plea. He grabs a heavy club from a nearby goblin. Meanwhile, the humans are still celebrating, mowing goblins down like it's a party. But suddenly, one goblin starts walking toward them. They're confused. How is this one still standing? Then, with just a single swing, this goblin wipes out the entire group of humans. Kim starts laughing again, totally hyped up. He mocks the humans, calling them fools for underestimating goblins. The woman wonders if that thing is even a goblin at all. The rest of the goblins get fired up again. Now they really believe it's time to show the humans who the real kings are. Chaos erupts once more, but Kim tries to calm them down. He tells them the humans are already down and there's no need to keep attacking. He says they should move on to the others. However, the goblins aren't listening. They've gone completely wild. Even when Kim tries to stop them, telling them to chill out, they just keep laughing maniacally and continue the massacre. When he sees them dragging the woman away, Kim yells, asking where the hell they're taking her. He jumps off her and runs after the goblins. He grabs one and demands they let her go. But the goblin just laughs and bites Kim on the hand. Now Kim realizes these goblins are completely insane. Total lunatics. Maybe the Goblin Brotherhood wasn't such a great idea after all. No matter how decent they sometimes act, deep down, they're just evil creatures. Trusting them might have been the biggest mistake he's ever made. Suddenly, Shin arrives on the scene and, with a single devastating strike, takes out all the goblins, leaving none standing. Kim recognizes him immediately and realizes this is Shin. Meanwhile, Shin finds the situation strange and starts questioning why the goblins had come all the way to a place like this. He turns to Kim and asks if he knows anything about what's going on. Kim, trying to play innocent, pulls a goblin face and claims he has no idea. Shin, clearly not convinced, mutters that this is turning into a pain. The adventurers are holding up for now, but they're heavily outnumbered. Even if the goblins deal only small amounts of damage, a battle like this can't drag on forever. The longer it lasts, the worse it's going to be. Shin makes up his mind to end it all in one clean move, but Kim quickly tells him to wait. He tries to explain that maybe the goblins were just pushed too far. He talks about how humans constantly receive quests to hunt goblins, creatures who, in many cases, have done nothing wrong. They're automatically labeled as evil monsters. Kim asks him to imagine how it must feel, being hunted by people they've never even met. Shin doesn't seem moved. He points out that goblins are evil, that they've always been that way. Kim pushes back harder. He argues that people only think goblins are evil because they've never actually talked to them. But Shin dismisses the idea of talking to goblins entirely. He says it would be a waste of time, that goblins are nothing more than greedy creatures with no purpose beyond destruction. Kim, frustrated and furious, starts yelling at Shin. He demands to know what Shin actually understands about goblins. He insists that goblins have families, raise children, and live more humanely than many humans he's met. But Shin remains firm. He says goblins only pretend to live that way. In reality, they are monsters, born in the abyss with no true families or children. According to Shin, everything they do is an act meant to deceive adventurers. Still, Shin clarifies that he doesn't want goblins to go extinct. He acknowledges they have the right to exist, but if their numbers grow unchecked, they become a danger to the world. It's necessary to control them to maintain balance. Kim, however, isn't buying it. He tells Shin not to give him that. Even if what he says is partly true, Kim wonders if Shin has ever truly considered the lives he's taken. He tells Shin that if he had ever sat down and eaten a hot meal cooked by a goblin, maybe his perspective would have changed. Shin coldly responds that the meal would likely have been poisoned. At that moment, Kim hesitates. A part of him knows Shin might be right, but still, he wants to believe otherwise. Then a memory flashes in his mind. The food was the only thing that felt off back then, or so he thought. But now, as he recalls more, especially the incident with the cockroach, he realizes that wasn't the only strange thing going on. Everything was suspicious. As Kim thinks it over, the realization hits him hard. This world is a game. Monsters in games don't raise families. They spawn. They don't nurture offspring. They appear out of thin air. There's no reason for goblins to create fake homes, fake meals, or fake affection. They were pretending all along. The weight of the truth crashes down on him, and now, instead of pity, Kim feels anger. He's been played, deceived, lied to by goblins who sold him a fantasy. Shin, noticing the shift in Kim's expression, hopes that now he finally understands the reality and will lend them his strength in battle. But instead of joining the fight, Kim turns and bolts in the opposite direction. Shin watches in confusion, wondering where he's running off to. Elsewhere, the lady, who has finally regained consciousness, starts to piece things together. She senses something bigger is going on, something beyond her. Maybe, she thinks, now would be the perfect time to slip away unnoticed. But before she can act, Kim leaps at her again, catching her completely off guard. He tells her there's a change of plans. Without wasting a second, he summons his own goblin companion and turns to address the chaotic battlefield. He calls out to the goblins in a commanding voice, urging them to stop. He declares that the Messiah has spoken, that the fighting must end, that this is enough. But nothing changes. The goblins continue their rampage, completely ignoring him. Their actions are wild and relentless, nothing like before. Kim is stunned. He can't understand why they're not listening. Earlier, they obeyed his every word. Now it's like they can't even hear him. He repeats his plea, louder this time, commanding them all to stop fighting. Before he can continue, however, an adventurer nearby notices him and shouts out, demanding to know what he's doing with a goblin. Kim panics. The timing couldn't be worse. He scrambles to come up with an excuse, insisting that it's all a misunderstanding, that he isn't actually allied with the goblin, that he's just... But in a flash, he grabs the goblin lord beside him and slams it to the ground with a dramatic suplex. He claims it was all part of a plan, that he was preparing a special move. The adventurer seems impressed, praising the execution of the suplex and admitting for a second he'd almost suspected Kim was the one responsible for this entire goblin mess. As the adventurer walks away, Kim watches him go, thinking how this guy, despite being a background extra, somehow nailed that exit perfectly. Once he's out of earshot, Kim breathes a long sigh of relief. That could have gone horribly wrong. But then, just as he relaxes, he senses a presence behind him. It's the goblin. The goblin is fuming. Kim knows immediately he's screwed. Still, he tries to calm things down. He quickly tells the goblin to wait, claiming that he didn't mean to suplex him. He says it wasn't even a suplex, just a stumble, a total accident. But the goblin isn't having it. Picks up a massive stone from nearby and prepares to strike. Thinking fast, Kim yanks the lady in front of him like a human shield. The stone hits her full force and she collapses. Kim winces and mutters that he'll never forget her sacrifice, calling her goblin number 2. But what really stuns him is the goblin's audacity. How could a low-level minion dare to attack its own summoner? Kim shakes his head, realizing this just won't do. Kim is furious now. He says the goblin needs a lesson, and without any hesitation, he launches the poor thing skyward. Irene watches all this unfold and squints up at the sky, wondering if that's a rock or... No, it's the goblin flying back down. So yeah, it did look like a rock for a second. As the goblin slams into the ground, Irene suddenly recognizes him, droopy ears and all. It's the same goblin child from before. She's confused about what he's even doing here. Then something catches her eye, a red whip. That's when she gets really pissed. She can't believe what she's seeing. Kim is actually trying to use a bloodworm whip without even bothering to remove the curse. That thing gives random status effects to the user and makes the minion go berserk if the curse isn't lifted. She knows how bad this could get. Meanwhile, Kim is shouting about how it finally makes sense why Catherine gave him this whip. He figures it was meant exactly for this moment, to beat this goblin up. But before he can follow through, Irene starts marching toward them. At the same time, there's a massive explosion elsewhere. Cut to another adventurer, who's grinning like a maniac while surrounded by fallen goblins. He's laughing it up, saying how fun it is to mow down mobs when they're bunched together like this. The professor beside him, clearly annoyed, tells him this isn't the time to be messing around. Their healers are already at their limit, and many adventurers and guild members have already been taken out. But the other guy just shrugs it off. He says anyone who died to goblins deserved it and should be kicked from the guild. Then the scene shifts again. Another guild master is fighting off goblins. He's already landed his 100th headshot and thinks he's had enough target practice for today. But the guild's vice president, Charlotte, immediately corrects him. She tells him there were exactly 100 gunshots and only 99 kills. She was counting, even if he wasn't. She points at the last one and says not to get too cocky. Right then, a goblin that was creeping up behind them gets taken out with a clean shot to the head. The guild leader, Horace, smiles and tells Charlotte that headshot was for her. Turns out, he had actually fired that bullet straight into the air earlier, and it landed at the perfect moment. Meanwhile, Let Me Solo Her is out there soloing hordes of goblins again. Another adventurer watching him complains, saying he's wasting time taking them out one by one. He offers to demonstrate what real farming looks like and starts summoning a wave of fire. The goblins panic at the sight of it, but then the professor calls out, he's noticed something strange among the goblins. Everyone starts paying closer attention. One goblin steps forward. It's the leader. There's something off about him. Before they can figure out what's up, a group of goblins launches themselves up through the fire. One of them triggers a meteor blaster, setting off a massive explosion. The adventurer lands back down and laughs loudly. He doesn't care what kind of creature it is, goblin, dragon, whatever. He says he'll just burn them all to ash. But as he stands there grinning, a leg steps out of the fire. He's not worried yet. Then comes the rest of it, an arm, a face, and he finally sees the goblin leader emerging completely. That's when the grin fades just a little, and he starts to wonder if maybe this is no ordinary goblin. He thinks this one looks absolutely unhinged. And honestly, starting to feel like this is the Goblin Lord, which makes Kim's situation even funnier. He's been messing around with some random goblin, totally convinced it was the Lord. But if this one's the real deal, then yeah, Kim's in for a rude awakening. Also, if this adventurer loses to the Goblin Lord, is he going to kick himself out of the guild too? Interesting thought. As the whip touches the goblin, the result is brutal. It's utterly destroyed. Irene watches, shocked and furious, realizing she was just a few seconds too late. She turns to Kim and screams at him, asking how he could do something like that. There's no time to waste now, so she tells him to unsummon his minion immediately. But Kim isn't even conscious anymore. The status effect hits him hard, and he's out cold, completely unaware of the chaos unfolding in front of him. Meanwhile, the goblin, now cursed and crazed, starts laughing like a maniac. Irene knows what this means. With the crazed status, the goblin's power stats are through the roof. The trade-off is completely out of control. Still, she thinks she can manage. After all, it's just a goblin, right? But then she realizes this one's fast, like way faster than any normal goblin should be, and he's not weak. As the fight continues, she quickly figures out the real danger of the crazed status. The minion no longer recognizes its master, which means, yeah, even Kim is a target. The crazed goblin lunges at Kim, clearly intending to strike. Thankfully, Michelle jumps in just in time. She grabs Kim and hurls him away from danger. Then, using a summoner skill, she calls out a blue bird. The goblin immediately switches targets and jumps at the bird, losing interest in Kim. Seeing her chance, Irene tells Michelle to attack, but to go easy. The idea is just to bring the goblin back to its senses. Michelle makes her move, but it backfires. The goblin retaliates hard, and Michelle takes serious damage. Irene is stunned. This goblin is way stronger than she anticipated. The goblin hits the ground and immediately spins around to go after Irene. She reacts fast, dodging backwards. Wasting no time, she casts a summoner skill, Summon Gigas. The earth elemental Gigas bursts from the ground in front of her. But the goblin just launches himself forward and punches a whole rock elemental, and completely shatters it into 1,000 tiny pieces. The blue bird and Irene back off quickly. She sees the damage pop up and finally accepts the truth. She wasn't imagining things. This thing is dangerously overpowered. If Kim doesn't get up and unsummon it, a lot of people are going to get seriously hurt. Looking to the blue bird, who's now holding Kim in its claws, Irene tells it to get out of there, calls it Romeo, and it flies off, carrying Kim to safety. But the goblin is not done. Still raging, it begins tearing up the ground, yanking up stones and hurling them in every direction like a wild beast, not caring who or what it hits. Even the bluebird, Romeo, flying high above, is struggling to dodge the storm of stones being hurled from below. Irene urges him to fly faster, top speed, she says, and the bird doesn't hesitate. It speeds up dramatically, trying its best to escape. But the goblin below is going berserk. It tears into the ground, smashes boulders, and then starts slamming them with its club. The result? The stones become deadly projectiles. One of them nails Romeo midair. Kim and Irene, along with the bird, start plummeting from the sky. As Irene watches the chaos unfold and sees Kim falling too, she mutters under her breath that she had hoped he wouldn't be as boring as a regular man the next time they met. Then, without a second thought, she reaches out, grabs him, and positions herself below to cushion his fall. They crash to the ground together, and meanwhile, that goblin has gone completely off the rails. A red aura is now swirling around it, and its presence is so violent, it's like rage in physical form. Cut to a group of adventurers nearby, veterans who'd taken on the Goblin Lord before. One of them, the Flame Knight, lights up the field with a devastating skill, the Eternal Flame, meant to burn everything to ashes. But the professor warns the guild master, saying the goblin withstood a meteor blast like it was nothing. He points out that this one isn't like any enemies they've fought before. He says it's time to let him use his skill. But the guild master refuses, claiming that asking for help is the same as admitting defeat. He tells the professor to sit back and do what he always does, watch. The professor doesn't doesn't take that well. He reflects quietly, thinking that the only reason a genius with an IQ of 160 has never stepped up is because he was always told to stay back, and stupidly, he obeyed. Back in the fight, the guild master throws everything he's got at the goblin. The attack lands and actually staggers it a little. But then the goblin counters with 99,999,999 damage. The blast sends the guild master flying. The others watch, stunned. One of them stammers, asking if Charlotte saw it. She confirms, yeah, she saw it too. That was the max damage. Even the professor sees it clearly. And when a player takes damage way beyond their max HP, the system forcibly retires them. The brain just can't handle the pain signals. The professor panics and shouts, calling out for the guild master. But then a hand lands on his head. A voice says, casually, almost laughing, "Don't make it seem like I lost. Stop crying like that. It's the guild master. He's alive." The professor is shocked, barely able to believe it. He asks how he's still standing. The guild master just smirks and turns to him, reminding him of that so-called strategy talk he was going on about earlier. Then he points straight at the goblin, still raging in front of them, and asks if the genius has any ideas to beat a monster that hits for max damage with every swing. The professor thinks hard. After a moment, he says that realistically, the only strat would be to run away. Winning, completely impossible, but maybe they could at least land one hit. The guild master repeats it slowly, winning is impossible, but they can still get in one hit. Then he makes a decision. If there's a chance for one hit, then I'll make that hit the kill shot. The only person who could actually control that monster of a goblin is unconscious. And at this point, honestly, the goblin wasn't listening even when Kim was awake. Everyone's doomed, pretty much. But hey, I'm loving how insane this story's getting. Things are heating up like crazy. If you're just as hyped to know what happens next, show some love. If we hit 2,000 likes, the second part's coming immediately. Let's go.